Hi everyone, welcome back to another SwansCast podcast. I just wanted to say, if you are here looking for our thoughts on the Welsh League Cup news that has recently broken this week, it is in this video. This is a long podcast. It's like 2 hours long, so we do apologise. There's a lot to talk about, especially ahead of Cardiff and all the news that we've had so far in the recent weeks. But we have clipped that out in a separate podcast if you want to just listen to that part. So that would be uploaded directly straight after this one. Or if you're on YouTube, you've probably already seen is there as well. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the podcast, and as always, engage within the comments. Let us know your thoughts, and we'd be sure to reply and be interested in what you have to say about all of the stuff we have to talk about. Hello, welcome back to another SwansCast podcast. Well into the new year now, and Ben is joining me for this one ahead of what is a big week of football for Swansea City. So welcome back, Ben.
Glad to be here as always, Luke.
Lee is not with us right now, but he might grace us with his presence at some point. But we are, it's ambiguous, to be honest. We don't know either, so we'll see if he turns up.
We'll say his name 3 times and he'll appear, do you reckon?
Yeah, he gave his prediction in already for Cardiff, didn't he? So we'll see if he comes. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he's scared to say it on camera.
He's probably scared to look at the score predictions points table, maybe. But yeah.
I can't remember what he said now. I was just trying to check because he's scared to say that on camera. We'll get to it later on, cliffhanger. But he's running away. But yeah, we'll see if he turns up. No seriousness. How's things, Ben? All good?
Yeah, all good. Like you say, back into the new year now. Just glad to be in a routine, to be honest. I think we said last time, probably ate and drunk a little bit too much over Christmas. So good to be back 9 to 5, eating properly, going to the gym and that. Feel a bit more energized.
Calming down a bit now, but getting back to a little bit of normality, I guess. On the football side of things, though, I don't know whether we would be consistent to say that's the case, maybe. I would argue that maybe since the whole drama around Christmas, the place just doesn't feel the same to me, but it'd be good to get your opinions on it, maybe as we talk about the recent games and the performances involved there and what's going on as a whole. I know I haven't caught wind of it myself because I'll be honest, I haven't in detail watched Luke Williams' press conference after the last game. I caught snippets of it, but I did see people were making comments saying some of what he was saying was a little bit odd again. Not sure if you've seen any of that.
Yeah, but I didn't really pay attention to after the FA Cup, to be honest, because I think the game went exactly as most people would have thought it went. But West Brom in particular, I think more people are referring to probably.
I know I think it was after the Southampton game because he was saying stuff about I don't know. I think he was saying about the performance and stuff and how heartbroken he was about. I don't know. You know, he's like he talks rubbish basically. But I was the same as you. I was actually I have a good excuse. I was out for my anniversary meal.
So
I was in the enemy territory for the day. Went for a meal, so I did put it on my phone after we'd finished eating, and the wife went to the loo. The waiter didn't catch wind of it, luckily, but they scored basically, and I turned it off, got in the car, and we were 2-0 down. So I was like, you know what? It's probably a good day to not be watching, but there we go. We'll talk about all of that in a bit. 2 games to talk about. We've got obviously West Brom, where we drew 1-1. Got the Southampton game in the FA Cup, which was a defeat. We just mentioned that kind of. But there's other news as well. We will look ahead to Cardiff a bit, not probably in an awful lot of detail, but we'll have a little bit of a look at it. I would argue at this point in time, they look like the team going in with a bit of momentum. But more on that later. There's big news that we're going to touch on after all of that, which is the news that's coming out about the Welsh Cup situation. That is on the verge of a final decision of whether it will go ahead or not. Essentially, not in anyone's control now, bar the FA. And a couple of bits of transfer news, as well as some good stuff coming out of the club and a couple of good statements really from Andy Coleman linked to some of those things I just mentioned. So I would say, he's doing a decent job so far. But we'll talk about all of that today. Let's start with West Brom and Southampton. So probably won't go into too much detail here. But West Brom, I think, is an important one to look at because that was the first game after the drubbing away at Portsmouth, which we spoke about on the last podcast. And I don't know, the performance, it was a hard game, to be fair. West Brom are doing well in the league. And under the circumstances that we went into that game, it was a complete mess off the pitch. I think Luke Williams went full damage control in the media before the match. I say damage control, like he basically apologized. I don't think I was expected it, to be honest, but he did come out and say sorry and saying he didn't mean any of what happened the way that it came out, basically is what he was saying. Backtracking, would you say?
I think that's an understatement. He basically said he knew nothing about it, and I thought it was all a joke. And I think anyone who's sort of like not even so much have an inside source, but if you just like track each interview, it's quite evident there was definitely something in it, and he was well aware of it. And I know there's all sorts of rumors around like, oh, he said, she said, but yeah, there was definitely something going on. So I understand why he's come out and just played it down, because he just sort of wants to sweep it under the carpet and move on. Don't get me wrong, but something definitely went on there. He handled it poorly, but hopefully now we can it's definitely done and dusted and forgotten about now, I think, anyway. So
well, I mean, I think we're not going to talk about Cardiff yet, but I personally think this is the make or break game to see if we can get over that situation or not. And not even result based, but performance.
He's not going anywhere though, for being honest.
No, he isn't. He isn't. But in terms of like the feeling around the place, the harmony, do you feel like the squad's playing for him, all that sort of stuff? Like, which directions are going to keep going from here? You're saying he's not going anywhere, but if the direction of our momentum just takes a nosedive off a cliff and just goes down, and he just losing all the time, not winning games, maybe he does. By the end of the season, he's not here, for other reasons than we ever expected. No, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I just think if it's a performance against Cardiff akin to the one that we had under Michael Duff, compared to a performance against them where even if we lose, you could tell they're up for it. Do you know what I mean? I do think that's two different stories coming out of that game.
Yeah, I'd like to think the characters in that dressing room, that won't be allowed to happen. I think Michael Duff was a very different situation to the one we have now. There was a style of play that Duff was trying to implement, which alienated everybody, whereas there's nothing wrong with all philosophies being implemented by Luke Williams. I don't think that's where the issue lies, like you say. The issue is, of course, everything unraveling the way it did so quickly. And they all know now a club like West Brom is all it takes to poach him, which probably isn't the best news, but let's be honest, 90% of that squad, if a top six club comes after them, they probably aren't going to say no either, are they? So they'd be probably hypocritical to...
it's the thing you all know, but you don't say out loud.
Yeah.
And we said a lot about it before in the last video, because we were probably recorded at the worst time, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
That video's done quite well for us, the podcast has, and a lot of you watched it and listened to it and had really good comments from it as well. So thanks everyone that supported us there. We recorded it in the heat of the most... say it's turmoil, say it was 2 days of turmoil. We recorded at the peak of the worst part of that, essentially, where it was all up in the air. And I think after we stopped recording, it started calming down and more clarity came out from journalists and stuff. And yeah, it was a bit all over the place. Good timing and bad timing at the same time. But obviously our views that we discussed during the video were reflected of the information that we had at that time. And a lot of it was hearsay and rumours. And I think the situations are treacherous sometimes on social media. You get a lot of people who, I'm not going to say act like they're in the know, but they say I'm in the know, and that's fine. I have no criticism of that. But then they seem to get a lot of heat. They put themselves in the limelight, I guess, and when they get it wrong, people like to jump on that. And it's not nice to see sometimes, but that's kind of why I think we don't really get involved in any of that stuff online. But we talked about our opinions in that video. And all I wanted to say really on the back of all of that is it was my understanding from what I've been told that the deal basically did fall through. Now, I'm not going to say I'm in the know or anything, but this is just what I've heard. Whether you want to believe it or not, completely up to you. But I think, as Ben alluded to already, there was enough there to kind of show that it was aligning in a certain way, and then all of a sudden something changed. So what I've been informed, and I trust, is that he was already discussing a move with his coaching team and all of that sort of stuff. You could tell from his conferences and interviews, he kind of got a bit ahead of himself. So that behavior was also consistent with him discussing it with people he probably shouldn't have been when there was no contract on the table. So ultimately, I think he ended up with a bit of pie on his face because that contract never got put on the table. And I think that's essentially what's happened there. So that's why he ended up backtracking and doing all of that stuff. And you're right, Ben, it's over, it's done and dusted now. I just think it's important that I think we need a win to kind of like move on. And it's a bit tricky that Cardiff's the next game, but what better game to do it in?
Yeah, I take your point. Like, from what I've heard, all the staff and players were told he was leaving. So, like, that's how far he thought it got. It obviously didn't get that far because, like you say, the legal documents or whatever clearly weren't as far ahead.
It was like it was an
as he thought it
agreement,
was.
essentially, verbal agreement, and they hadn't maybe negotiated. I mean, you've got to go through the club to get to that next stage, haven't you, I guess, and do it all properly.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, the point is he did all the behind-the-scenes stuff without any actual official stuff. So that when West Brom caught wind of all of that, they were like, hang on, we don't really want someone like that, because it kind of put them off, is what I'm hearing.
It's strange what you think, isn't it? Because, like, when we appointed Luke Williams, it wasn't like an overnight thing like this would have been. Like, this was rushed through the West Brom talks. And
I think it was like a month, wasn't it? From the time you put that video out, come and get me, and to the time that we actually went and got it, it was quite a gap.
Remember how long Sheehan was in place for? It was a good, like, 7 games.
I think Duff got sacked at the end of November, and Luke Williams came in early January. So
it's weird to think, isn't it, that he stayed in the Notts County post for so long and didn't have these issues that he's had here, but then somehow it must have felt different. Like, maybe he needed to make this one happen, whereas he knew the Swans' job was his. If we stumped up the money, I don't know. We're going over the same things we talked about.
Yeah, I think maybe the league is like a different kettle of fish. Maybe like no one. Maybe it wasn't scrutinized as much because of the jump in leagues before.
Yeah,
and it was scrutinized a lot more because at the time it all broke. It was one position in the hierarchy. Do you know what I mean? And I know the money's different and stuff, but on paper, I think any fan really, as much as you always get a little bit like frustrated, your manager's gone. When they jump up 2 leagues, I think you always kind of accept it.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Yeah, you can't argue when someone comes knocking from that position. So that's for me the main difference. But it is what it is. It's just, I just find it a shame because I thought we were in a good place, going the right way, and I just feel like that's kind of like two steps backwards sort of thing now, and we've got to kind of rebuild. So now we're in that position. We did get a point against West Brom, somehow. Don't know how. I don't think we deserved a point here, but we got a point. Thoughts on the game?
Well, first of all, it was nice seeing you and Lee. Believe it or not, even though I've been here for about a year, that was the first time
in person,
I've actually met Luke and Lee in person, which seems crazy now that we're saying it out loud. But enjoyed it, a few pints beforehand. And like you say, we were lucky on the day if we're being completely entirely honest. Nice to see Joe Allen score a header. Certainly wasn't on my bingo card, but the game largely went as expected. I think if we're being honest in terms of West Brom had more control in the game on and off the ball. Chance creation for us, it wasn't zero, but it certainly wasn't significant by any means. And if we're being honest, they got the first goal was at like 65th minute or so. They probably should have been leading by then. It was slightly surprising they didn't push a bit more and extend that lead. Maybe that's just because, the Corbrand leaving as manager, maybe a bit of a rudderless ship. But we were fortunate to still be in the game to come in towards the end at 1-0 and took our chance when it came to us. Don't get me wrong, but I think I said to the people around me we could play for another hour here and not score a goal, and then somehow we did.
I mean, I got the stats up on the screen now. I'm a bit surprised to see it. Obviously, this is a little bit of time ago now, but our XG 0.91 and there's been 1.01. I thought there'd be a bigger gulf there. And
is there a heat map with that?
One big chance to none. That's a good question.
I'm only pointing it out because I felt like all of that came in the first half almost, and the second half literally.
I got the momentum chart if you want to see that.
Yeah. So the Joe Al was actually quite a big.
It can't zoom in apparently. So if you could see the momentum chart on the left, looks a lot more even than I just described. To be fair, I think maybe what it felt like watching the game was it was a bit of a dull game, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the chances that you remember weren't for us. That's probably the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I mean, the part I'm surprised at is in the second half, after they go 1-0 up, we actually had a fair bit of momentum.
I think they're happy to go sit and be defensive, though. That's just the way that they kind of set up and play on the break then. And I would like they didn't batter us. Don't get me wrong, they didn't. I just felt like we were huffing and puffing a lot of the time when we had the ball and doing nothing with it.
Yeah.
Again, that's just what it felt like.
Was it 70% ish possession for us, or was this more even?
68, I think. 69.
Yeah. Well,
no, sorry, 59. Sorry,
yeah,
59.
So not 70 odd by any means. Still had more.
No,
and probably not doing a lot with it, but
against the top 6 team, that's a high amount of possession, isn't it? And yeah, not doing enough with it. But then 11 shots isn't actually that bad. It doesn't show you, unfortunately, on here anymore how many were on target. But didn't feel like it was a lot of good chances. Did we hit the bar once or something? I can't. It will say on you actually. No, it doesn't say.
In terms of actual good chances, all I can remember, Vopotnik had a decent one from outside the box. It wasn't a good chance, but he made it a good chance. Obviously, the goal was well finished. Yeah. I'm struggling past that. I know we're going back about a week and a bit or whatever, but I really don't remember much of note.
Yeah, nothing stands out. That's for sure. But there we go. It was it was important to not lose that game. We said before the video, and the circumstances slightly changed after he did his conference. To be honest, it didn't feel as toxic as I thought it might be in the crowd as well. But it also was very flat, which was kind of expected. And that probably maybe played a part. The game felt flat. The crowd felt flat. It was weird being there. And but it's something that he needed to come through after the situation he created ultimately. And again, he's come through it without losing and he's got a point. So it's better because we've been saying about our form against the top 6 teams. Getting a draw is better than losing against them again. So that's positive. Obviously, the next step is getting a win. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But it just didn't. It was all the good work against QPR and Luton again just wasn't there anymore. And I think that's the big frustration. The other talking point from that match, if I can remember, obviously, Cyrus Christie starting as centre back. What do we make of this? Because obviously this is the first time we kind of see it. We see it more afterwards. But
when he started the game, he exceeded my expectations. I'm not saying he looked particularly comfortable. I'm not saying that it's an adequate replacement for Darling Cabango, but I don't think it was as bad as what I was expecting it to be. The issue now, of course, is he partnered Harry Darling in this game, but as we'll get to in a second, Harry Darling is now a doubt. Cabango, as far as we're aware, is still out. So it's now down to Christian Norton because Abby's been recalled and we don't trust Philip Lisser. So is this the best game to go on to see what Christie will be like in the next game? I'm not entirely sure, if I'm honest.
So in this one, I fully believe that Christie starts ahead of Norton solely because Norton started the previous game at Portsmouth. And that's where Cabango's injury happened. So I think if he hadn't started that game, I think Norton's ahead in the pecking order. It's just that neither of them clearly are 90-minute, 3-game-a-week players. And that's a big issue because if you're now relying on both of them to play centre-back, which we might be, it's concerning because there was no option when they ran out of puff. The option was going 3 at the back. We kind of transitioning into Southampton a bit here, but while we're on this issue, we may as well talk about it. So against Southampton, regardless of their performance during the match, they obviously can't. They can't both do it. I think Norton, who got subbed to sit us actually, was it Christie that went off? Yeah, Christie comes off. So it doesn't surprise me that Norton lasts longer than Christie. I would probably have guessed he would be the one that has the better legs. And considering he hasn't done the 90 minutes, I don't believe, all season, the fact that he's forced to here and probably going to need to again in the next game, I'm a little bit worried because the last time he was in this situation, he ends up getting a decent injury. If that happens, I don't know what the solution is. But anyway, Christie gets subbed off to go 3 at the back against Southampton. Something that we haven't played since Luke Williams' early time here. And that's one thing. But when the second part of that is Timon and Kia, 2 of the centre-backs, and Norton's the other one, they're all traditionally full-backs or wing-backs, and you're going into the biggest, your biggest match of the season, essentially, or one of your 2 biggest matches of the season. I'm not really positive about that situation. I'm not going to lie to you.
I think he plays Grimes centre-back, I can't lie. Now we're just airing this all out in the open. I genuinely think whether it's a back four, back three, Grimes, I think, will be a part of it. If Darling and Cabango are both injured, I think Fulton and Franco will be midfield. And he'll just stick Grimes further back. Yeah, rather than just dropping in between them. I think that's what I would do. I mean, he's done it before under Potter in the FA Cup against City, didn't he? Came in at left back, centre back. I know it was more rotational. It's not like he can't do it. I think it's just going there and setting up, just not to not lose, but like to be a little bit more defensively secure. I trust him more in defence than probably Norton and Christie over 90 minutes. Do you?
I'm not against the idea. Just if you're going to mention 3 midfielders, that I would have put Fulton in that role. But I see your point in terms of Grimes drops deep anyway, so may as well just put him there so that he doesn't have to drop deep.
And then maybe
you keep Fulton further forward and not having to sacrifice that midfielder. It depends if you want to lose Grimes further up the pitch and how much you value that aspect of it.
I think you'll see Cullen just dropping in deeper than normal to pick it up as a result of it, maybe.
That's another point, though. Is that something we want to keep happening? Because I do feel like he's doing that a lot and has also cost us a couple of goals doing so.
I think it's the best option we got until different signings come in, to be honest. I'm not saying Cullen doesn't deserve minutes, but what I am saying is we desperately need a centre-back or 2 in. That's not happening before the weekend. So I guess my point I'm making now is purely for the Cardiff game going forward. I agree it's unsustainable and probably would lead to a downward trend. But in a one-off game where Cardiff don't exactly have, the history of like footage to look back on how to deal with it, I think it's probably our best option. Whether it happens or not, I don't know.
As for the Callum point I made, I'm referring to one he did at Portsmouth. He did it again for the West Brom goal, where he gives the ball away in a bit of a stupid place, and then we end up conceding on the break from that loss of possession. I don't think he's doing it intentionally, of course, but it's something that he seems to keep managing to find the ball by dropping deep in a position that he's not able to keep it. So I guess the opposition is being savvy to him being out of position and able to get the ball off him in a good way. That sets them up for an opportunity. So it's just a trend I've picked up on a little bit in the last few games. That's something to keep an eye on. I mean, it'll be interesting. Harry Darling, I don't think is 100% ruled out. I think it's important to say for the Cardiff game. He's a doubt.
We're thinking about it now. We're basing this off of what Williams has said. He is a doubt after the Southampton game, right? He could just be doing an Arteta year and playing mind games, knowing full well he's going to play regardless, even if he's not fully fit, but just like trying to throw Cardiff off,
Look, that could well be the case. I was just kind of like looking at the possibilities of that situation, or at least discussing them. My initial reaction when Darling didn't start this game was that he's gone. I'm not going to lie. Because when I looked at the squad, the only change of note was the goalkeeper. So Vigoro dropped to the bench, and I would say his name, McLaughlin.
McLaughlin, I think, yeah.
Yeah. He made his debut. And the other one of note was Darling wasn't there. We were expecting Christie or Norton to be partnering Darling, I guess. But he wasn't there. There was both of them. But then the big thing was he wasn't even on the bench. And I didn't know he was injured going into the game. So I was a bit like, it's the FA Cup. He's out of contract in the summer. There's teams circling around him. That's not a good look. And obviously they said he was injured or a doubt or a precaution or whatever they said. And that's the easy line to say, isn't it? So what do you think? Do you think he's actually injured, or is there more going on here? They just didn't want to cup tie him?
I think they didn't really care too much about this game anyway, but didn't have the options to rotate to. I'd be surprised if he doesn't start. He could be 70% fit, but I think 70% Darling is better than 100% Christian Norton, personally.
And out of Christian Norton, who would you put there with him? Would you still use Grimes?
I'd believe it or not, I'd do Christie for 60 and Norton for 30 because I think Christie did okay. I think Christie did okay when he started, but every time Christie comes onto the pitch, he just can't hack it. And
didn't he also give away the third goal just before he went off?
For Portsmouth now, is it?
No, Southampton.
Oh, right, I was
going to say. Poor for that.
But
yeah, he did.
This is similar to the Wickham game. I'm not going to look at the Southampton game as like a basis for how.
No. I just mean comparing the two of those two. I personally would go with Norton. I'm done with Christie. I'll be honest. I'm done with him. I just think it's a waste an absolute waste of time signing. I would rather the other one. Adam Reach was there that we were linked with.
Yeah, we had him for a while. Who knows if that would have worked out or not? I don't know. But yeah,
It's like Balassi again, right? It's like Yannick Balassi all over again, where it's just an absolute waste. It's like there's a couple of them now. Wilfred Boney the second time. You got Yannick Balassi, and then you got Christie, where you kind of remember their past, but they come with that second time. I know Balassi was only with us at one time, but it's not the same player that the streets remember.
It was a fun signing, wasn't it?
He had that one game, his debut, where he got everyone off their seats and never did it again. Was it that half volley that he hit and it smashed the crossbar? I really wish that went in because it would have been worth it for that moment alone.
His last game, he actually looked like he was fit, is the thing, and then we got rid of him. I was so annoyed that we spent the time actually building him up a bit, and then didn't keep him. But
he didn't stay after the whole Duff getting sacked, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite funny because I think he got signed, didn't he? He tweeted something out about supporting the manager, like how grateful he was for the chance and how good a manager he was. And then like the next day, Duff got sacked. So yeah, it was quite funny to see. But there we go. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, in terms of the performance against Southampton, actually, before we go to performance, the team selection I just discussed the 2 changes. We were surprised there wasn't more. Like I can understand going for strength, thinking you're going to have a chance to get something. But I thought it was a bit of a risk because when you don't get something and the way that ended up panning out, we got a little bit of a drubbing. I feel like that's done more damage now than if you at least give, I'm not saying full rotation, but like maybe 4 changes, a couple of youth in there, a couple of youth on the bench. At least you would have got more out of the game. And it would have been less damaging then if it was a little bit of a bad result because you're gaining from it at the same time.
Like, I know it's easy to say now with the benefit of hindsight, but I can't fathom how you can have an unchanged like outfield and then drop Viguru knowing that your keeper hasn't kicked the ball in ages, and obviously his age as well. He's probably not going to be quick to get back into things. Because especially in our system where you're so reliant on your keeper being good with his feet, we've seen Viguru struggle a little bit in recent weeks, and he's very good with his feet. McLaughlin, he struggled proper. I think it's a Premier League press, nonetheless. You know, fit players who were probably rested as well because there were some changes for the Saints as well. And it was evident straight away that the way the game was going to pan out, we all said, oh, they'll put 3 or 4 past us now because we just couldn't play out. And that was mainly because they were just leaving the keeper with the ball at his feet, knowing if we played into Christie or Norton that they'd struggle to turn with the press. And every time we were going long, it was going long to Ronaldo, Bianchini, or who were losing the first and then, if not, the second ball as well. So it's, yeah, I don't understand how you can bench the keeper, if I'm honest. I'll be glad to see Viguru come back in for this now. What it did expose was, like you say, the weaknesses of Christie and Norton together, which is probably why I'm leaning towards just starting Grimes as an actual centre-back in the game, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think when we saw the team sheet and we thought it was unchanged, and then we clicked on Darling wasn't there, didn't we? We were like, oh God, like Christie and Norton centre-back us. I'm not sure that's going to work out. Keeper though, I'm not really sure what to say. I don't want to like lambast him. He come in as a number 2, isn't he? A temporary thing, quick fix because Fisher got injured. His performance there, why have they sent Fisher on loan? Nathan Broom's just gone out on loan. Every other youth keeper is already out on loan, and this guy's come in. He's done his debut. Maybe the reason he played this game was to see what he was about. And even if we had a chance against someone out of the game, even though we didn't start well, the first goal we conceded was shocking. It was shocking, to be honest. I don't know where he was. He was like in no man's land. He basically was like in World War II playing football on his own in the middle, in the middle of the trenches. Just have the ball dinked over him. Like, it's a little bit embarrassing, to be honest.
It's got to be rustiness rather than, like, I'm sure he knows, looking back, how bad it is. I'm sure he knew at the time how bad it is. Like, maybe at the lower level he's previously played at, usually he doesn't get punished. Why? Well, it's a good finish. You can say it's an open goal, but he's starting outside the post and coming back into it. So
yeah, fair play to against Premier League, and
yeah, exactly. So fair play to the striker, but yeah, he probably knew it was a mistake, regardless of whether it turned out to be a goal or not. Made some half decent saves in the game to somewhat make up for it, but the amount of times he lost the ball, yeah, it's concerning. Like you say, like we talked on the pod about 6 weeks ago probably, What happens if Cabango gets injured? What happens if Darling gets injured? We've now both got injured. We've seen what happens there. What happens if Viguru gets injured? We've now had a little taste in the FA Cup. So it's this is
I
the
don't want
issue with
that
the
to happen.
size. This is the issue with the size of the squad, isn't it? Like I say, I'm relatively happy with the starting 11. This is a good championship starting 11. It's not a relegation threatened group of players. But the second you take a couple of them out, Grimes is another where he hasn't looked fully fit in recent weeks. We saw Franco. What happens there when he doesn't start, particularly in home games? It's haven't got the players to come on, so it's going to be difficult to see this all the way through to when the season ends. I think because there's a feeling that you just don't want to drop out.
Yeah, exactly. And we're 15th of January now. And we still haven't brought anyone in, so it's not panic times yet because they're clearly trying, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But nothing, no action yet. And well, technically we're down in numbers because obviously Abby's been recalled. There we go. So yeah, keeper situation's a weird one. I thought he was out of contract maybe like now, but he must be maybe to the end of the season.
Must be end of the season, yeah.
I can't in the world see why he would get renewed. But like they've sent Andy Fisher on loan, and he said it's important he gets game time and stuff. What's the difference?
He's out of contract at the end of the season. We clearly have no desire to keep him, so that's just
Fisher.
Fisher.
Yeah, but both the same, aren't they? Like I just
he is out of contract, is he? I'm just double checking that.
Well, McCaughlin.
No, Fisher.
Oh, I don't know when his ends. He'd been here 3 years, wouldn't he? So
yeah,
probably is the summer. That's a big problem, though. And I thought one of the youth keepers might have been able to step up. I wouldn't have seen any harm in having one of those as a number two. Like, what's the you got? How old is McCaughlin? He's like kind of end of his career.
36, I think, is he?
So like, why not just? He's played one game in however long he's been here. If Figaro don't get injured now, you're not going to play another one. Why not have just put Broom on? Why not just play him?
He's here another year, Fisher. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, which I'm surprised at, to be honest. Like, again, it begs the question why.
Maybe they want to sell him in it, so they want him to play so that he can actually get sold. But I'm still confused by it. This just still odd. Like, it's an odd situation. We've always had this thing with goalkeepers, though, haven't we?
We get a good one occasionally, but yeah, we are quite bad at managing them. I'm still not forgiving them for Bender, to be honest with you. But
Bender, I didn't mind Mulder, to be honest.
He was never going to be as good with his feet as he needed to be when he came down under Potter, was he? But yeah.
It was Russell Martin, though, wasn't it, that Mulder was playing for?
Not sure. Cooper, maybe?
I can't remember. There's too many.
I think he came into the team, didn't he?
What's his name?
Erwin Mulder. I think he came into the team in the playoff semi-final against... Who did we beat? I'm trying to remember. Semi-final Barnsley. And then... yeah, I think that's right. Steve Cooper.
I mean, he's gone to Herne and he made 53.
He's a good keeper. He's a good keeper. It's just footwork's always been a thing with Swansea keepers, isn't it? Like, I know Nordfeldt was the one who was preferred under Potter. He was better with his feet. He couldn't.
Was it Cooper that was flicking between them both? Then I can't remember who it was.
Cooper had Woodman, but I think Woodman. I don't know whether he was injured or suspended or something.
Oh, so it was Potter then, was it? It was Potter that was. I'm sure he gave like a run of 8 games to one and a run of 8 games to the other, and it was like.
And then he decided on Nordfeldt. Yeah. So Potter played.
Mulder got injured though. I thought he decided on Mulder and he got injured. And Nordfeldt, I thought was a bit poor for us.
He was good with his feet.
I can't remember. I genuinely can't remember.
It went great. Anyway, like you say, there's always been an issue with Swansea keepers, and there's always something. Look, Woodman now, he's cursed. He's having a bit of a tough time, and he was brilliant with us, but he's getting like a big left right centre.
And Rushworth didn't get into the team at Hull.
Yeah, I think he had an injury at the start, but that's mental because he was incredible.
Yeah, but they ended up having that Pandu, who was their second choice keeper under their last manager, Rosenier. Apparently, that was one of the big reasons he got sacked because he didn't want to play him, and that he was like a club signing or the owner signing or whatever.
Really?
So yeah, so that Panda's been started now, and apparently he's been okay. But they obviously signed Rushworth then to be backup. I don't know. I feel like after the season Rushworth had, you can't go on to a loan at a club and be backup in the same league.
Yeah, I mean, basically a
poor decision.
To keeper that any not far off. He was getting called up to England when he not far off as well. So crazy,
just weird. To be honest. It's crazy life being a goalkeeper. I think you've got to have an element of luck in there somewhere, haven't you? Because it takes like one right turn to the right club, where you can actually show your ability sometimes. And I think there's probably been some keepers that haven't had that, and you probably missed out on some gems. Like Fabianski, for example, he's had a good career since he left Arsenal. You know, he went to West Ham and did well there. Like, who's that other one actually that left Arsenal? The one that's at Villa now, Martinez.
Yeah.
A lot of people consider him the best keeper in the world, but he couldn't get a sniff at Arsenal.
It's odd, isn't it? Like, he played a little bit at Arsenal, but who was it Leno at the time was keeping him out of the team maybe, and now he's at Fulham.
Yeah. Just weird. It's weird.
Hard to prove yourself a keeper.
Yeah. Anyway, we got a bit sidetracked there. Anything else from this? We didn't really look like scoring.
I think Southampton overplayed out from the back even after Russell
Joe
Martin's
Allen
left.
at the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, even after Russell... Oh, yeah, hit the post, didn't he, Joe Allen? Yeah, even after Russell Martin's left, you can still see his footprint is still clearly part of that team. It weren't just that. I know the Joe Allen one was the only one that clearly led to a goal-scoring opportunity, but there were other instances, particularly in the first half, where, you know, you could see it was the same thing happening. If we had a better press and more, you know, skilled attackers, I suppose, we'd have scored a couple against them, is the truth of it. I know it's very much if buts and maybes, but just goes to show why they're so far down in the Prem. Also exposes how big the gap is, really, isn't it? When you think Swans, we're not going to get playoffs this year, but we're a side that's flirted with it. This is a side that's rock bottom of the Premier League with 6 points, I believe it is. And they battered us because they had weaknesses, but we couldn't expose them.
They've broke the record for the worst start to Premier League history for the first half of the season.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there'll be championship sides who would have given them a game. We've seen the way we perform against the top six for whatever reason. We're so one-dimensional that we just struggle against teams that on paper are better than us. We don't have plan B, a different way of playing against them. If we can dominate you, meaning we're better than you and we'll play around you, then usually we do. But the second there's people who are quicker moving the ball, have a better press than us, have a solid defence, whatever it is, you know, if they are better, they usually will win. We don't have a plan B. And this game just backed it up, really.
Ryan Manning and Nathan Wood both featured in this game as well, which, I mean, I don't know what sort of reception they had, because obviously I was out for my meal, but I heard from the radio that it wasn't amazing when Wood came on, especially. I got another question regarding all of this, two actually. Bianchini and Vipotnik. Are you frustrated if you're Vipotnik at this point?
Yeah.
You signed to be the number 9. Bianchini signed to be a striker. Now, I know we spoke about some of the stuff he offers there, but he wasn't signed for that role. Sorry, he was signed to be a winger. I haven't looked into the data here, but I'm just from my gut feeling and from memory, Bianchini seems to be getting more starts in that role. Definitely recently, I would say. I'm surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, Vipotnik struggled for minutes, I think, over the last few weeks, which is surprising, because I thought he was starting to kick on a little bit, which I feel like we've been saying for a little while. But like you say, I know he's only brought in on a free. He wasn't a big money signing or anything, but he certainly brought some hype with him, some potential. So to see predominantly someone who's known as a winger sort of occupying the number 9 space, I mean, and Liam Cullen, to be honest, because he didn't start this game. I know there was some rotation in there, I guess you could say, but it's not like I don't like Bianchini, but I do think you've got to like try and make the system work with Vipotnik, because he's the best chance of like a long-term striker for me. I know Cullen has got 8 goals, but I don't think he's a number 9 still. I think a lot of his success is coming from deeper. And Bianchini feels more like somebody you put on there when you got tired legs and you're looking to stretch the game a bit more, not maybe from the off. That's just my opinion on it.
I think Cullen is like a shadow striker, and he's not a number 9. He's not a 10 either. He's like in between that.
A position that almost doesn't exist.
Not many teams deploy it, yeah. But like, I mean, you could probably do it in a 4-4-2, where he plays with another striker, but a little bit deeper, running in later and stuff like that. But I think in today's game, it's not there very often. Then my other question. I forgot about Josh. I'll get on to him in a minute as well. The other question is, we're not going to see youth this season, are we? Where's Parker? Where's Gavia? Where's Lissa? Because I thought maybe they had a chance here. Or Wilson as well. He signed a new contract just before this game. I thought, oh, maybe that means we're going to see him here now. He's going to get some minutes, not even on the bench.
Yeah, we said off camera we thought Wilson was going to play this game, or at least feature on the bench. And yeah, to not see him there. I know Ginnelly came back. Maybe that was part of the reason, but it is odd. you look at some of the players who didn't come on, like obviously most of them did. Vopotnik didn't even get minutes, which maybe they're saving him for Cardiff, I don't know, but surprised me, it did. And I don't know, it feels like the sort of season where you just would play youth. You would, like, there's not a lot going to go on now. I think we sort of proven in recent weeks we're not going to challenge top 6 because of the squad depth. I'd like to think we won't get dragged into a relegation battle. Obviously, you can never say never. The league can change in the matter of like 5 games if you go on a bad run. But yeah, I don't know why we have Parker. I think is building back to fitness at the same time as Ginnelly was, so hopefully he isn't far behind. He's certainly someone I think could bring give us a bit of energy. Wilson, I know we never really seen him, have we? Like a first team level.
I think he was on the bench once or twice in the cup last season, but I don't recall him getting on.
Comes with hype. And Gavea, I know he only played like 10 minutes off the bench, like 5 separate occasions, but he looked okay.
Yeah, but it was like the end of the season every match.
Yeah.
It looked like he was, because the thing is, he brought Gavea in himself, Luke Williams. He wasn't really around the place before in terms of first team. And it looked like he was the one that he handpicked from the youth system to be like, that's somebody that I think's got a chance to get into the first team and show something. And this season we haven't seen him once. It's like odd. I know he was injured. I don't know if he still is. I'm sure he's featured in the youth team a few times, but could be wrong.
I think he's recently fit. He did have a little injury mid-season, I think, but he should be fit now.
Alyssa as well. He went on pre-season, and again, we haven't seen him. So Ben Lloyd's the one that has been regularly featuring onto the bench, not getting on the pitch that often, but it's nice to see him consistently named there. Hopefully we can see a bit more of him. I guess maybe the draw was a bit unlucky. It would have been better if we had a lower league team, because maybe then we would have seen a bit more of those names, perhaps. Maybe Luke Williams looked at this and genuinely thought we could give it a go, and that's why he's gone this way. Didn't quite work out like that. In hindsight, it's easy for us to criticise, but there we go. So yeah, Josh Ginnelly then, obviously, was that a year and a half pretty much, or a year and like 5 months?
Like, no, it was a lot when it was about 480 something days, I believe they said.
What was it like September?
Yeah, 23? I think it was, I want to say it was, stuff was your end of September, maybe mid-September.
Yeah, and he got onto the pitch and he looked okay, to be fair. I think he was a little bit of a spark. I mean,
he weren't afraid to sprint, was he? That was the big thing for me. Would he come on and just jog and be afraid to really like get into it, but straight on sprinting straight, which is nice to see. It shows hopefully they've proper taken their time with him. We know he's been gone a long time, but they haven't rushed him back in a bid just to like get some minutes into him, hopefully.
And we said we haven't signed anyone, but he could act like a new signing in reality.
If he can feature regularly there. Is he going to come in and give like a Joe Allen role where he plays 20 minutes a game consistently? Or will we see him actually start games of football? Because like you say, if he starts games of football and he shows flashes of what he did before we got injured, he's a real asset for us, he is. I'm just concerned that he won't come back the same as what he was because he's been gone so long, but I hope to be proved wrong.
I mean, we were saying in the last video, I think it was, that we didn't think we were going to see him again. So that was quick that changed.
Yeah, that is true, actually, yeah.
I think they dropped a video, didn't they, of him training, and then obviously his name. They obviously dropped that knowing he was going to get on the bench, 100%. We probably didn't think that at the time we saw the video, but that's clearly what they were doing. I think they were trying to like drive a bit of hype, weren't they? Like, look, he's back training, involved with the first team on the ball and stuff, and then he's on the bench. So good to see anyway. There's one positive that came from all of this, that's for sure. So let's go into Cardiff then. Now, how are you feeling ahead of the match, first of all?
Nervous, as always. I think quietly optimistic that we'll go with a game plan, which is slightly different just because of the circumstances. I think normally we'll look to go and dominate. I think that you've got to approach this one a little bit differently because of the injuries in defence, if they do turn out to be true. I'll be a lot more confident with Darling on the team sheet. Only concern, which you've alluded to, is Cardiff's form is somewhat better than ours at the minute. I know if you say form doesn't matter, but there's got to be some indication of where spirits are. Equally, it was only as little as like 5 weeks ago they were on about sacking Rizza at Cardiff, their manager, literally only like 3 games after they'd appointed him until the end of the season permanently, or the end of next season, whichever it is. So a game that's very much in the balance. I think it can go anyway. I don't think we're going to see a high scoring game. We'll get to the later, but I think more than 2 goals in it total.
Yeah, so their form's decent. They are unbeaten in 5 games, with 2 of those being wins. One of those wins was FA Cup against Sheffield United. It's a good win, to be fair. There might have been changes either way, but it's still a good result going into this sort of game where you can build up a bit of momentum. But not losing for 5 games, I think, is a big deal for them based on their season so far. Just trying to look at their fixtures. So they had a win against Watford, and that's away as well. Drew with Coventry, drew with Middlesbrough, beat Sheffield United, and then drew with Watford. So it's not do you know what I mean? It's one of the worst teams to be not losing to.
No.
It's just a bit frustrating. This always seems to happen, though, doesn't it? Like, they always play us when they come into a bit of form, it seems.
It's usually the other way around, isn't it? Do you think we're normally the ones that hit a bit of form as we're about to play them? That's what I always see them say the same thing every derby.
I can't. I'm sure there's been some that we think like it's a couple of weeks away. I think like last year, the second game, they had a really bad time, and then they went and won like 4 games straight before the derby or something.
Right.
I think that's what happened last year. I don't know. There's a lot of them these days, and they come. There might be even more soon, but they It's one of those where you didn't used to have them, and then it was a big deal, and now it's every year twice. It's like, oh, do we have to do this again? I'm trying to see who's injured for them. I'm sure they've got a few injuries themselves. Yeah, well, I mean, making noises that it might come back for this one again. Funny how he just manages to do that.
I think he's not even going to be in the international break in March. That's what I heard. He's struggling even for that.
What's he actually got wrong with him?
What hasn't he got wrong with him? Great legend. Happy to say that as a Swans fan because I'm a Wales fan also. Brilliant player, but he's past it now, and I don't know what he's earning there every week, but he's stealing a living for the number of minutes he's actually got on the pitch. What's he really done? He put in like 4 or 5 good games before scoring a penalty against us. He's been missing since then. That was like Michael Duff time.
I think he's only played 4 games this season. 4
I'm surprised if that. I am surprised it's that high, if I'm honest with you.
I'm trying to have a look at their squad, sorry. So anyway, going into this game, our form obviously is a little bit worse. I think it's not awful, don't get me wrong, because it does technically stretch back to the Christmas games that we did okay in the last 5. So there's 2 wins, 2 defeats, and a draw. We didn't have a match midweek, whereas they played Watford yesterday as we're recording this. I think they must have had a game in hand. So yeah, an FA Cup as well for us was a loss. The big thing for me is what we discussed earlier, and I do want to revisit that ground, is the whole thing with Luke Williams and how, for me, the on-pitch stuff has shifted a bit since all of that has happened. Like, if you asked me after Luton how I felt about this game, I would have felt far better about it than now. And because of all of that stuff, really. So I know we don't want to keep treading on that water, but I do think that has given me a certain feeling going into this. Like, I don't necessarily, especially with the centre-back situation as well, I wouldn't say I'm confident going into it. I'd probably come away with a draw and be content with that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, football moves so quickly, like you've just hinted at. With QPR and Luton wins on Boxing Day, and a few days after that, we performed really well in both games. Luton, we did well to get over the line, whereas QPR, we just got ahead early and stayed there. Obviously, the Portsmouth result came as a shock. No one saw Portsmouth 4-0 come in. And in the West Brom game, on the back of all the Luke Williams news, we expected a difficult game against a difficult opponent, and we were lucky to get a point, if we're being honest. Whereas Southampton, then, I don't care about the Southampton result. I will be honest. Like, I sort of knew it was coming. It was worsened by the keeper decision. Don't get me wrong. It was also worsened by, things out of our control with the injuries, the centre backs. But Cardiff, I go in hopeful. You got to go in hopeful, and you got to go in believing that you're the favourites, and you expected to put in a good performance as a bare minimum, and hopefully the result follows. We've got the better history in the derby. We don't have to go in with the issue of, they beat us in the reverse. So that's nice. At least there's no double being done against us. But I'd like to think the pressure's on them. They're the ones in the relegation battle. At the end of the day, we're not. If we win, we put them back into 22nd potentially, right? I believe it's that tight down there. There's potential for that to happen. So, yeah, go in. It's like I said, low scoring game would be my prediction for it.
Yeah. I can't really find any good accurate information on unavailable players for the game. Have you got a website you use?
For injuries, no, not in the last couple of years. Used to get quite accurate information on it, but such little is given public nowadays from some clubs. Like I don't think the databases are really kept up to date anymore properly. You're not from fantasy football alone, don't you? Like you got to be like Sherlock Holmes to find out if somebody's actually fit or not.
Yeah. Obviously, I think Ramsey's definitely probably is going to be out. I just saw somewhere that Callum Robson's got a red card, but I don't think that's true.
No, he did. I think it was on a second yellow, so he's probably back for it.
Was it against Coventry?
Yeah,
it's expired anyway if it was 3 games.
Well, there we are. Because FA Cup counts,
I'm sure he came on against Sheffield United.
Yeah, it's probably just a 1 game ban then.
Yeah. And I'm seeing like Rals came back from injury in the last game, didn't he? I think Tanner might have as well, and NG.
Oh, Tanner is it? There we are, perfect. That's one player who don't want to be fit in the South Wales derby.
No, but I think he's back now.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I'm saying it's not a good thing because he only shows up for Swansea games. Honestly, Ollie Tanner, like, there's probably worse players about. I'm not saying, but from Cardiff fans, I know that he says that he plays well in that one game, the South Wales derby, and it buys him like 6 months of just like not people having to go with him because he just doesn't bother turning up for anything else. It's weird. And obviously he's got that memory behind him of scoring what was effectively the winner in the 2-0 victory. I know it was the first goal, but that one on the game.
But he won the pen as well, didn't he? He won the pen.
Oh, did he? But there we are. And also, he probably set up. Did he set up the Callum Robinson equaliser earlier in the season? I feel like he
did.
Yeah. So this is what I mean. He likes the South Wales derby, which, fair enough. We have Darling if he plays, who loves the South Wales derby. Everyone has players like that, but
Manning used to love it.
Yeah. I do hope he's not fit. I really do, but I feel like they will push him back for it. Especially like Timon, like we say, like there's nobody really to come on for him in the dying embers of the game. So Ollie Tanner off the bench, but potential threat. Anyone with pace really, it's going to cause our full-backs issues later on. Centre backs, even if they're asked to be pulled wide and cover.
Yeah, he was on the bench against Watford yesterday. So was Rals. So I think they're still coming back from their injuries, but they're obviously there. They play Callum Chambers in centre midfield.
That's surprising. I mean, Rolls, like, he has stinkers in South Wales derbies. I realise it's difficult to like predict a player's performance just based off like individual performances and reverse fixtures in prior years. But Rolls, I can't ever remember him having a good game against us. Callum Chambers in midfield's a surprising one. They've got quite a few centre backs to choose from. Maybe if they just had some injuries in midfield, that was just like their makeshift option. What I do know is they've got plenty of centre backs, but none of them have gelled into like a formidable partnership. They've just been chopping and changing them, from what I can tell. So it could be a game for Potnick, to be honest with you. Like just to find a yard of space.
Yeah, could be. Another thing that I've just noticed: they started Ruben Colwell up front.
Well, number 9.
According to Sofas, I'll show you this. Maybe it's wrong.
Didn't they play Kean Ashford?
Yeah,
number 9.
Is he number 9? They've got him on the wing, so that's why I was questioning.
Yeah, I'd question if that's accurate. Maybe they put him on the wing. I don't know.
This is their squad against Watford, so I'm just looking at this to kind of get an idea who might be where. Regardless if they're both be on the pitch, but I
mean, Robertson's not even a number 10, is he? Normally, he's deeper lying. I'd question whether that's actually a back 5 and they have it down as 4-2-3-1 because it would make more sense that Chambers is a centre back with O'Dowda at wing back. I know O'Dowda does play a flat back 4 as well. To me, it makes more sense if Chambers a centre back, Robertson's in line with Rinomota, and then Colwell's maybe drifting wider.
Looking at the game against Sheffield in the Cup, it is a 5-3-2.
Yeah, makes more sense to me. But yeah, like you say, then Colwell would be up front. He'd just be partnering Ashford's. They'd probably have like Ashford in more of a fixed number 9 role with Colwell, more freedom to move about. Yeah, interesting. It's difficult. You're second guessing almost how they'll set up in the way we set up.
Just some names in areas I didn't expect. That's all.
Yeah.
But there we go. Colwell's probably one of the men to look out for, isn't he? As well as Tanner, if he does play.
He's very
Ashford,
hot.
though. Where's he? He's just broke onto the scene this year. Then
I think he's had little bits of minutes over the last season or 2. He's never really nailed down any.
Someone from his academy, though, yeah.
Yeah, come from the academy. I think Colwell definitely is the biggest threat, but he's very hot and cold. Like if he could perform at his highest level more consistently, there'd be an argument that Premier League Academy would have picked him up a year ago, you know.
Yeah.
He's always been really highly rated. That's why the Cardiff fans always get wound up when he isn't in like the Welsh senior squads. But clearly he's missing some part of his game that allow him to replicate his performances more often, because you're not seeing Ruben Colwill this season talked about as somebody to get picked up by bigger clubs. So he started.
I haven't seen much about him. Early season he was, but he's not really recently.
Started brightly, fizzled out. Got a hell of a shot on him. Got decent long range passing when he wants to try and pull it off. It's decent dribbler over the ball. I think he's quite tall, I believe, like 6'4", so good frame on him as well. So he's got all the tools really. Maybe unnatural to have that sort of physique to such an advanced player up the pitch who's not a number 9, but yeah, I don't know. I don't watch him regularly enough to dissect what's exactly going wrong for him. I doubt I'm not putting any individual blame on him for why they're so far down the table, but maybe they would be looking to him more as a beacon of light to pull them up a bit, but it just hasn't happened, clearly.
Kean Ashford, 9 appearances this season for them, 5 last year. So it looks like maybe he's breaking through now, because he seems like he's in the squad now. He's kind of got in and he's in there now. So he might be one to watch out for this game, one that we haven't seen before in the match. And let's hope he doesn't make a name for himself.
Yeah, let's hope. I mean, there's a chance for one of our players to make a name for themselves, maybe. Just trying to think who.
Yeah, I know. Ben Lloyd.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's not getting on the pitch, is he?
No, probably Ginnelly. Maybe he can come on and make the moment of magic, That would be...
the sky.
He can go and get injured after that if he wants. Yeah. If he goes and scores a screamer like he did against Southampton in this game, just go and... That's it. It's fine, mate. You've done it. Have a lifetime contract. Chill on the sidelines to school.
The commentators would love that, wouldn't they? The man who's been missing for 500 days.
That would be crazy, though. That would be amazing.
Yeah, because he never played in one still, is he? Oh no. Was it before or after the Duff game he got injured, Ginnelly? I have a feeling it was before.
I think that was early.
Oh no, it was after. It was after, because it was third game of the season, wasn't it?
No, that was this year. That was.
Christ. He could have missed it then, yeah.
He might have. Or if he did, he probably would have come off the bench if it was anything else. No, I think if it's September, I think we played them in October or something. I think it was early October. But anyway, doesn't matter. So prediction. Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, we'll do the predictions now. Change it up a bit.
Because we're talking about Cardiff.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We can go into the other stuff then. I haven't really got much more to say on it. I don't think we're going to get a preview done this week, unfortunately. It's usually notoriously hard to get anyone to come on for that one. I had someone for the last one, but I'm not going to have one this time. Then
I should have said I've got links. I've got links to Cardiff. They don't have to be podcasts.
I've been busy this week. I have, so it's more I haven't gone searching. But no, what I mean is normally I have to go and hunt someone. Yeah. Whereas I don't really for any other club in the league. But Cardiff ones tend to just not answer.
That's so.
I probably could use the same guy I had last time, but yeah, I'll ask you. But you could do it if you want. You're welcome to go do it if you've got time. But
yeah, do a guest preview. Why not?
I've just got work's busy and I'm not going to get it done before Saturday now. To be honest, I was hoping it'd be a Sunday game, but it didn't change it today.
Yeah, I think it's too late for me now as well. To be honest, I'm in Llandudbury and Cardiff next 2 days. Ironically,
it's all good. So, you're in Cardiff, are you? Going to scout on enemy territory.
No, I wish no. But anyway. Recounting the West Brom game, so Lee predicted 3-0 West Brom, which in all fairness to Lee, if that had been the score, I don't think anyone would have said it was completely unjustified. You went 2-2, I went 2-1 to West Brom, so thanks to a late Joe Allen header, you got the correct result. It was 1-1.
Look at that. Yeah, the points keep on ticking, yeah? Oh.
I'll hold my hands up. You had some, I didn't want to scream it from the rooftops at the time, you had some poor luck, I think middle of the season in particular, or middle of the season so far, so, luck balances out eventually.
I think I started off quite poor, but some of the results, some of the results were like what you just said about Lee. You probably couldn't have argued it if it finished that way. We had a lot of those games where we should have either won but didn't take our chances, or got a draw for the same reason.
Yeah,
and I was on the wrong end of the stick because of it.
Exactly, and there was, I think, one game in particular where you predicted the correct score line on a different podcast, but didn't message it to me. So
we didn't have any predictions in for that game, did we? So
We'll tip the hat to Lee. We purposely didn't do Southampton because we don't do the cup predictions, but he did put a bet on for it to be 3-0 Southampton, so he would have got the correct scoreline there had we done it. So fair play, Lee. We'll start with Lee's now. The reason, he's out for a meal really, but
we can slander him. We can slander him on this.
We can slander him. He's going 2-0 to Cardiff.
That's why he's not here, guys. That's the real reason he hasn't showed up to this podcast. Because he didn't want to come here and tell you all in person the Swans are going to lose 2-0 on Saturday, in his opinion. So give him grief in the comments. He's going with
his head there, isn't he, rather than his heart?
We hope so, but he's gone walkies. You know, we barely got in touch with him before that prediction. He just disappeared. So.
Yeah. So Lee's still dead last on the total points prediction. He's on 19. Luke, you're in second, narrowly behind me now. You're in second on 30. I'm on 32, so it's still your honours. Remember, can't go 2-0 Cardiff. Got to be different results. Or scoreline, sorry.
I said I was on... What was I on earlier? I was on something earlier. It was just a generic podcast about Swansea in general rather than anything specific for this game. But they did ask me, with this game coming up, what my prediction would be. And I did say 1-1. So I feel like I got to keep it consistent because otherwise I'll annoy myself if I change it and then it is 1-1.
You just nicked my prediction. That's why this rule will screw me over, you know. So I'm going to have to go 1-0 to Swans now. I don't want to go 1-0 Cardiff. I can't.
Oh, someone's getting 3 points then, or whatever it is.
Someone's getting points and some sort. Yeah, I can't. It's not the first time that's happened this season. One's gone home, one's gone draw, one's gone away. I'm trying to look quickly. I think it is.
Oh, no, there's one Sheffield Wednesday away.
Oh, is there actually? Oh, that's got in. Oh, well, okay. Well, it's a rare occurrence nevertheless, isn't it? So that's good. So we'll see potentially, Luke, if you get a correct scoreline, you're overtaking me.
While he's not here, we should really think of a forfeit. If he gets this wrong, like Swans go win 2-0 now, it's just the polar opposite of what he said. And I know that doesn't necessarily benefit any of us, but we would all take that, of course. I feel like the forfeit for this league, maybe we should be you've got to wear a t-shirt that says this. I thought Cardiff would beat Swansea or something stupid like that.
What do you want to know? The forfeit for my fantasy football league, for example, is whoever finishes last in the league has to, like a park run, like a 5k run. So you've got to wear your club rival shirt. So in our case, Cardiff, and you've got to do a 5k park run. Obviously, you do it in Cardiff to avoid getting bricked. You can't do that down Mumbles, but yeah.
So I think that maybe we could do something like that, but considering he's not here, we'll test if he's going to watch this video. We'll say that's the forfeit, and if he ends up having comeback of all comebacks, we'll just forget the conversation ever happened.
Perfect. We'll have it on video evidence, though. Oh,
it'll be there if you edit, but it's on him then to see how much he supports the podcast, because it's there if he wants to go find the evidence. But we're not going to go and present it to him.
See, the thing is, if I finish last in this and in the fantasy football I'd have to do 2 separate park runs.
Yeah, but you don't need to do that if Lee went and found this information.
Yeah, we are. I don't think Lee is a grafter in terms of going back and watching old pods, to be fair. So
he'd probably chuck it on and double speed and not click on to what we're saying, because we're an hour in at this point. So maybe he's skimming through this part, and it's well, that's on. It was there. It was there if you wanted it. But he's got to gain 11 points minimum first for that to happen anyway.
Sounds a lot. It's basically just 2 correct score lines, though. We've seen
it. No, but you're more than halfway in the season now.
Yeah, that is true. Anyway, I think he's the only one who's using logic and reason with his prediction. We'll just say that. But I do think we're the underdogs here, despite my prediction of us winning. But I'm gonna let my bias overtake my prediction for this one.
You did say earlier that all the pressure's on them, so you're feeling okay about it.
In a way, isn't it? The home team, they're expected to perform. Obviously, they need the points more than us. Equally, for the reasons we've previously covered, is a bit more turmoil perhaps going on behind the scenes, even if it's calmed down a little bit now. So there's multiple factors I'll go into. I think it makes for an interesting derby. It's different.
Yeah.
I think it's nicer.
Do you think we should do? I don't know if you're going to put it back up. We probably should do Sheffield United as well, because that's on Tuesday.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point actually. Well, Lee's not here. We'll ask Lee. We'll ask Lee off camera, and
that's his own fault. If he was here, he'd have first pick, but he's not, as he, so it's tough.
Yeah, he forfeits that rule.
Yeah.
You can still have obviously first pick, though, because you're still out of us two, because you're currently behind me, which maybe
we won't tell him what we put, and then we'll only tell him that if it clashes.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Okay, Sheffield United. What are we away? No, we're home, and
We're home. Yeah.
I'm going to that game. I should know that. This is tough now. This is the sort of tough prediction where normally it doesn't matter so much, but I do think result on Saturday could impact performance on Tuesday.
That was everything. I agree with you. I feel like this is definitely one where we'd benefit from knowing what the Cardiff result is. So we're going to make sure Lee tells us before the Cardiff game, that's for sure, because you'll have a little upper hand on us otherwise.
Yeah, I'll text him as soon as we finish this. I'm going to go with 2-1 Sheffield United.
2-1 Sheffield. Christ. XL's.
I mean, the odds are in the favour of an away win because we haven't beaten the top 6 team all season. So
yeah, I'm just gonna go flat 2-0. Just to be honest, like I feel like 1-0. Also, I could have gone, but it don't feel like a 1-goal game. I think again 2-1 is probably what I would have gone for if I'm honest. Because there are like.
Yeah, I just feel like it'd be a frustrating 2-1 where it's like Luke Williams will go off the rails again afterwards because he's frustrated and we can't just see it through or something.
In the reverse, we lost 1-0. I feel like they definitely
should have batted
more than one. Yeah.
To be fair, Pert Harris missed an absolute sitter as well.
He did. He really did. It was one of those ones they say it looked harder to miss than to score.
And then they went down the other end and got a penalty.
Yeah.
So there we go. Okay, we'll get that off Lee and that'll be added before we discuss it next time. Okay, let's talk about some of the other stuff then because we're getting on a bit, so we want to get that done. We talked already about the centre-back situation earlier on. So there's a little bit of transfer news. The one that's really doing the rounds, and there's definitely truth in it, we can definitely say for sure, is Joe Lowe from Wycombe Wanderers, centre-back. Welsh centre-back?
Yeah.
Young.
Well,
what's he like, 23, 22? Yeah. 2 bids by Swansea have been pushed back. You were telling me the most recent one, 600k.
Yeah, opening bid $500,000, second bid 600k, and now, as I'm sure you're about to say, we're looking at trying to create a player swap deal, but we don't know what player. So that just seems desperate, if I'm honest with you.
It's been reported.
It probably won't happen, but there we are.
Being reported by Wales Online that we're looking at a player swap deal, but it doesn't report anything in regards to the context around that, like who that might be. So that's down to speculation and guesswork. Now, it depends how much you trust Wales Online. You'd imagine they wouldn't post something if there wasn't anything to it. Usually they don't post stuff that hasn't got at least some credibility. Whether it happens or not is another question. I agree with you, though. Like, that's just shouting, we have no money.
Yeah.
And then the next question is, who's going the other way? Because I have no idea. It's better, like, there's no inkling here whether it's like defender for defender or is this just a player for the defender? Because if you're looking defender, I'm not sure who goes because the only ones I could think of is Choa on, but do we realistically think that he's going to go? I don't know. I'd find that a bit weird that they would take that option. And who's the other ones we said?
Pedersen, who by all accounts apparently is on too much money for what he offers. So certainly Wycombe couldn't afford him, and I don't see any incentive for him to drop down his salary when he's got 6 months left. He'll probably just see out his contract at the end of the year. The last one you said, which for me would be the most likely one, is Philip Lisser, as we mentioned earlier, purely because he's just disappeared for some reason. All I'll say is Wycombe, as far as I understand, more so than any other club, put a massive emphasis on personality and attitude. And I don't want to speculate because we don't know what's gone on, but usually if a player just doesn't feature when maybe he should, then something has gone on with personality, attitude, which is negative. So that could be the only thing for me which maybe stops them wanting him as a player. All it says, this article, is that we have tried to consider a player swap. It doesn't say who that player is or players, and doesn't actually give any indication whether Wycombe are entertaining it at all. By all accounts, as far as Wycombe are concerned, they're saying he's not for sale, which they're going to say, obviously. Every player has a price. Would I be surprised if we hit whatever price they're asking for? Yeah, I probably would, because if we're resorting to player swaps, then for League One centre-back, we don't have the cash. Not enough of it anyway.
It's concerning, but also at the same time, like, desperately needs to happen.
Yeah, and I feel like Wycombe probably knew it desperately needed to happen before Saturday. So it could be that because obviously there's the added pressure and wanting or need to win the derby. So maybe when the derby passes, we're thinking our negotiating power becomes ever so slightly stronger. Not sure. Obviously, never been in the world of football business negotiations or whatever, so I'm not sure if that holds any truth or not. I guess what it comes down to as well, which we have no idea, what are Wickham able to replace him, because they're to be clear, they're top of League One, right? And they're
They had a
trying
few loans cancelled as well, I think.
yeah, they're trying to stop their squad getting gutted. I think they've just had their manager get nicked, Bloomfield, and he's just gone to Luton. So they're desperately trying to hold it all together because they've created a bit of an unlikely promotion push and they're ahead of teams maybe they shouldn't be. Like I know Birmingham may have just gone back ahead of them now, but they're up there with Wrexham as well. Wickham have been in the Championship. It's not that they have a bad squad or anything, but I don't remember them being one of the names discussed as
No,
like
it was kind of like
a
bit of a surprise when they got up, wasn't it? And
yeah,
obviously they got the manager, was it Ainsworth that brought them up, and
yeah,
he was a bit of a character himself. It was one of those teams that everyone wants to do well, but it was always up against it to stay in the league.
And I felt bad for them because it was the COVID year, wasn't it? So they couldn't even like see it properly.
But also, wasn't there like all that drama around certain teams who should have had points deductions that happened after they got relegated, but if it hadn't, they would have stayed up?
Yeah, I think it was something like I think it was when they got promoted, wasn't it? When they're like points per game with the remaining games that never got played. And it was something like it may have been Wigan. They had more points than Wickham, but Wickham had more games in hand. So if you averaged out how many points Wickham had and applied the points per game, even though they had less points than Wickham at the time, they ended up finishing above them on points per game, which is crazy, really. But it was a pandemic. No one knew.
Yeah, but I think that happened to them, and it happened with the relegation because I don't know if maybe it was Derby with a points deduction or something. It was a club that had one at the start of the next season, and then they started questioning it, saying why are they getting at the start of the next season when you knew all this information last season.
Yeah, I mean, the world of points deductions has always been just abhorrent, to be honest with you. Like, they'd make the rules up as they go along. Remember when they, like, what was it, Wigan, like, maybe what you're just on about then, they had the weird owner that sort of just disappeared, and they had a 12-point deduction just dropped on them immediately in the same season out of nowhere. They had a squad, it was like Reece James, Kiefer Moore, Jamal Lowe back when he was, like, younger and probably a brighter spark. I think it was Anthony Robinson, USA international now at Fulham. A stacked squad, and it went down because
it might have been. It might have been because we signed Jamal Lowe then, didn't we?
Yeah, we signed him the following year because I think they were possibly at risk of having liquidation. They needed to just get rid of players. They did for whatever they could get for them. So when they were in League One, we signed them. We signed Lowe.
I think that might be the same occasion I'm talking about then. So 2020 and 2021 season is when Wickham went down. I know they were in the league at the same time then. The year before was when Wigan went down. So probably Wigan cost them the promotion the year before. I know they were in the Championship. Never mind. I don't know. I don't know. I think it was a different team. There's a few teams around that COVID time that had points deductions, wasn't there? So it was definitely something they were shouting about. Because I remember, like, it was a bit of a, like, I did feel sorry for them because I think it was the team that was always up against staying up. They nearly did, and they didn't. And then it was Derby, because Derby finished 21st. Wickham finished 22nd. And I believe Derby had the points deduction the next season then.
Yeah, just
because they got relegated the year after, didn't they?
Tough to stomach that, to be honest, particularly because of how good Wigan's team was. Like I said, I think they had Paul Cook. I think he's now at Chesterfield.
12-point deduction at the start of the next season Derby had, so that's what they were saying.
I honestly believe if they'd kept that squad together, Wickham, the names I just reeled off a minute ago, they'd have had a real go at top six next season. Like they were at the time, it looked like, oh wow, how are these performing so well? All the players went their separate ways, and individually now they've just got a bigger ceiling on them again.
There we are. That's Joe Lowe. Anyway, I'll be interested to see what happens with this. One that I hope it happens. We need a centre back. We need one that's like, if Darling's gonna go, it can't just be someone that does a job. It needs to be someone that's like gonna grow into the team and stay here for a decent amount of time. It doesn't have to be like forever, of course, but like what Darling's had, a couple of years where he's probably going to progress in the end of it if he doesn't stay here.
Hopefully we'll a 4-year deal or 3.5-year deal, excuse me, as well. Yeah. Because I think we're doing it now, aren't we? like Franco, that looks like a master stroke of the fact we gave him a 4-year deal. We've done it with Bianchini and Vipotnik, and they're still maybe got some more question marks over them. But we benefit from Joe Lowe giving him a longer term contract, because Cabango would probably have to shell out big money to keep him now. Darling, by all accounts, looks like we could struggle to keep him because the contract talks. He looked like he was about to sign on, didn't he? But then this thing of the Luke Williams situation put a scupper or buffer on that. Sorry. So yeah, hopefully he comes in. I still would be leaning more towards it not happening, just because I know how Swansea transfer windows typically in January usually pan out. But wait and see. The windows change so quick. It could be someone leaves unexpectedly and offers funds. Whittaker could be going Burnley. And we have a 25% sell on there. So if that happens, all of a sudden you've got yourself an extra 2.5 million on the way, which you can hopefully allocate some of that to the transfers. So wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm just reading about the centre-back situation. So this is what Williams has said, that he basically revealed no senior centre-backs are available, and both were doubts for the Cardiff trip. So not available for Southampton, both are a doubt for Cardiff. I thought Cabango would be definitely ruled out. So saying doubt is... Watch them both play now. That'd be crazy.
I think Cabango will miss it. I'd be stunned if Darling doesn't play now that we just talked about him more, just because I honestly think even if he's like half fit, they'll play him.
The other name that's been mentioned, correct me if I'm saying it wrong, Blackburn Rovers winger Tyrese Dolan.
Yeah.
You're saying maybe not that much in it? I mean, Wales Online is reporting it.
He's probably on a list of 10 people in that position. From what I've read, doesn't seem like it's likely at all. Similar name, which cropped up a week or two. Oh, not even a week ago, 4 days ago, Christ. Adam Phillips of Barnsley, probably a good player, don't get me wrong. But
he does a contract in the summer as well.
18 months on his contract, I'm reading here.
Oh, is it? I thought it was 6. My bad.
Yeah, it could be 6 with an option for maybe. Dolan is 6. Yeah, Phillips is 18. I'm reading here. Probably a good player, but doubt we really have the facilities to get him at the minute. So probably just another one agent trying to generate a bit of interest.
At least there's names, because there wasn't for the first week or two.
Yeah, and I mean, what I've learned is names usually it's just agents. Like, think about the players we signed. Like, most of the time you just hear about them and then they're signed in a day. Ji-sung maybe being one exception, but Bianchini, Vipotnik, Franco, I think we found out about them, and then within 24 hours they were pictured holding up the shirt. So
no, you are right, but I just think we need to have something come in. I don't even care. I'm getting to the point where loans is fine right now. We need something that's going to be able to play, not like someone who's just going to make up a number on the bench. Someone that could come on and do a job.
And don't get me wrong, I'm happy we're trying to avoid loans. I really am.
But if you haven't got the side in there for you to make, don't waste the money as well.
Yeah, because loans aren't another thing people forget. So potentially, loan players are sought after. They're on bigger money. You'd sometimes pay in loan fees, and then the loans which you can get for cheap, they're more like Charles Sago Jr. That sort of level of player where they maybe not gonna make a big impact for us. So yeah, we'll wait and see. We still got 2 weeks left of the window. Usually a lot happens around deadline day, especially in January. A lot of the movement doesn't happen until right at the end. So yeah, we probably need 2. I don't know if you agree with that number or what. I'd like to say 3, but I just can't get 3.
Well, I wanted a centre back for sure, and I wanted some sort of forward.
Yeah, I wanted a cam, but I keep coming back to left back is the one I keep coming back to.
A versatile forward would be nice, where they can play cam well, but if they need to go somewhere else, is fine. But that's probably asking a lot.
I keep coming back to left back just because the people we've got to back up Timon clearly aren't recognised as being good enough. And Timon for me isn't a 90-minute player. I think if he played in a deeper role, then he'd last 90 minutes because of the work he needs to do going up and back. He can't last 90 minutes. We'll probably see against Cardiff. Yeah, but I think with Key, he sticks more in centre mid a bit more. And I feel like Norton's more of an adequate replacement.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not so much an issue with Key because you've got perhaps Norton coming on. Yeah. But I think just the way that they've both been asked to play, they do run out of puff a little bit, because they are ones that are regularly rotated out from even starting as well.
Yeah, which I'm glad they're doing it, because even though you do see a performance drop, they're going to get injured. They're going to do a hamstring or something at some point.
Yeah. We'll see anyway. Luke Cundle's a name that still floats around. I don't think he's necessarily like top priority, but I think he's somebody that, if the availability is still there come deadline day and we're struggling, that's one that I could see happening under those circumstances. But I don't think he's like top name on the list sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I'm sure there'll be some random surprise dealing towards the end. Moving on, the main news, I guess, that's broken this week.
Yeah. Really excited.
So the Football Association of Wales. It's good that this has been put out today, actually, because I think stuff broke yesterday and the day before. This is Swansea's statement on it. To be fair, I think Andy Coleman's done a good job here.
Good.
The Football Association of Wales has unveiled plans to revamp the Welsh League Cup, aiming to generate an additional £3 million per season to support football at all levels across Wales. This initiative is part of the FAW's broader vision to elevate the JD Cymru Premier, providing clubs with more opportunities to compete against the highest-ranked Welsh clubs in the English football pyramid. Under new proposals, the winner of the revamped Welsh League Cup will enter the qualifying rounds of UEFA club competition. This will allow Welsh clubs in the English football pyramid to represent Wales in Europe, competing against top European clubs and raising the standards of football throughout Wales. The proposal has received unanimous support from JD Premier clubs. Additionally, Cardiff City, Newport County, Swansea City and Wrexham have approved the revenue sharing model for the new competition, designed to benefit the entirety of Welsh football. There is a significant funding disparity between grassroots facilities in Wales and England. Since 2022, the Cymru Football Foundation has received 17 million compared to 327 million for the English Football Foundation. New funding streams such as the revamped League Cup are essential to improving the game in Wales. Wales is significantly underfunded for broad football infrastructure improvements due to current UEFA coefficient standings. A UEFA study found that Wales has the least number of 3G pitches per capita across all of Europe. Last year, close to 50% of grassroots games were cancelled or rescheduled due to waterlogged pitches. Additionally, girls' access to football at all levels is 10 plus years behind the rest of the UK. Now that's key for me in terms of like Coleman's involvement. I think that's him all over, yeah. The plan has been discussed with UEFA, the Secretary of State for Wales and the Welsh Government. It is now awaiting final approval from the FA for the participation of clubs playing in English competitions. So this is probably the hardest part as well, unfortunately, but that's what it is at the moment. So this is what Andy Coleman has actually said now. This initiative aims to create a level playing field and support each other. Oh no, that is the sentence. Sorry, I thought there was more there. Wales deserves recognition for its clubs and national team in Europe. Our top clubs play in the English system, a position we've earned over the last century and are fully committed to maintaining. So I think that's important. However, since they don't represent Wales in Europe or UEFA coefficient ranking, our UEFA coefficient ranking is low, leading to less funding and a negative impact on Welsh football. The proposals address that imbalance, generating new income and increasing UEFA distribution for Welsh football at all levels. Importantly, it ensures no financial advantage for Welsh-based EFL clubs regarding PSR. This is about improving football in Wales with good intentions. That sentence is important for me, with a lot of the arguments against this from across the border. But we'll come to that in a second. Anything else worth noting here? Oh, this is not about Wales putting their hand out, but putting our hand up to highlight structural imbalances affecting the game here. We need to stand up for ourselves, and I am proud we are doing so as a unified voice. The FA board has been presented with a tap-in, and we see them as great partners supporting our pathway. Let's come together and make this happen for the future of Welsh football. That's a very directed... he knows that they are the stumbling block, I guess, and he's just he's making it apparent that if this doesn't happen, they are the problem.
Yeah,
I think the rest of it's not really. I'm not going to read this about the FAW guy.
Yeah, a lot to unpack. First thing I wanted to say, though, well done, Danny Coleman. I know he came in, he had a little bit of a hiccup with the first couple of statements, but you can see the amount of work that's been put into this is monumental. I think the number of parties involved and the fact he's managed to get everyone on board from the Welsh Premier League, obviously talking to the Welsh government, the 4 EFL clubs even, may have differences in opinion between League 2, League 1, Championship in terms of does it benefit all clubs? Structuring a package that can be greenlit as far as we can see. I think, like you mentioned just then, the biggest issue a lot of predominantly English fans rather than people in higher up positions have with the deal would be potential financial advantage of Swans, Cardiff, Wrexham and Newport. As far as we can see from a profitability, what's it called now? The profitability and sustainability rules.
Yeah, basically FFP in it.
Financial fair play, yeah, that's the one. As far as we can see, no money we'd earn from it would go towards that. That's the part that seems a little bit vague, if I'm honest, because they say the package would aim to generate £3 million a year for the Welsh Prem, for grassroots football, for women's football. £3 million, I'm pretty sure, is just the amount you get for getting into the Conference League, which is the competition which the Cup would most likely lead to. Obviously, if you win games in said Conference League, I think it's £400,000 a game in the league phase per win. And then the further you go into the competition, you'll get obviously TV money, but also prize money.
I guess
is obviously.
I guess it's a case of you can commit to the qualification part.
If you qualify, though, obviously.
Yeah, if you qualify. But I think that what they're trying to say is there's a lot more chance we're going to qualify with these clubs there. So based on that set fee, that's the money that's going to definitely be shared. Well, that's the aim, you know what I mean? But then if someone progresses further on, there's bonus money on top of it, I'd imagine. But they can't necessarily put that figure down because you might not.
Yeah. The part I'd be interested in seeing in black and white was, £3 million if you qualify, that's fair. So let's say the 6 games in the group phase, we win 4, that's about 2.5 mil. And then on top, that takes up to 5.5. Then we progress to last 16, say. So I think that's about an extra million again on top. You've now basically doubled the money you're expected to get. So that extra 3 million or so that you weren't expecting, what happens with that? Does that all go the exact same distribution as the previous 3 mil?
Yeah.
Or are we then allowed to keep that, but then we don't include it in profitability and sustainability rules or whatever? So to me, that reads we don't profit from it at all. That's how I take it, but maybe I'm wrong.
There'll probably be more information on it if it finally gets approved, or if it gets rejected, there'll be reasons. Maybe there'll be part of the reasons. Who knows? But yeah, there is some vagueness there. I read it as we're not really going to get anything financially from it, because this is what we were talking about, isn't it? When it first came out the other day, I was saying we'll profit in other ways, and as much as we may not directly get the money from this, maybe the TV money and stuff you could say goes to the club. And then
that helps PSR though, doesn't it? Must do. This is what I don't get. PSR money.
Statement?
PSR money is any money you earn from tickets, from advertisement, from progressing in tournaments.
Maybe not then. Maybe it does just go.
On paper, if that's what it takes to get greenlit, I don't particularly mind it all going to the Welsh Prem and lower
maybe
down.
we'll get the money that sustains us taking part. So travel, any costs of taking part.
This is what I thought, but it doesn't even read as that.
Well, I'd imagine it says no financial advantage. So in shows no financial advantage. So I'd imagine the finances that we will get will be in line with what we need to take part in the competition. Which would mean because we would still have to spend to take the team to Liechtenstein to play in a match there.
Yeah, you got 3 away games and
so that would come out of our expenses, I guess.
Yeah, so then
to balance that with then we get money to balance that.
The part I'm going to struggle with, right, is obviously if this comes in, it'll be next season. The Welsh Cup takes place between the 16 teams, I believe it is. Then and only then, if we won that, we would then go into qualification the year after. So we are looking minimum 18 months away, if not longer, however long it takes us to win this tournament. We got a small squad now with the schedule we have now. We're talking about we don't have a fit centre back, and we're on about chucking in probably I think if you go into round 1 of Conference League qualifying, which I presume this would be, you've got to get through 3 two-legged ties. That's 6 games right at the start of the season. Then potentially 6 games in the league phase. That would be 12. Add in Welsh Cup along the way, which we'd be competing in again that season to try and get back into Europe. But then we have no extra funding coming in as a result of the prize money. So it's like, how are we going to afford to have a squad that could allow us to do this? You've got to believe in the youth players.
I'd imagine there would be a mixture of youth and perhaps the players that need to run out, especially in the Welsh League games. When you if you then end up winning that competition, because realistically, our youth team, I wouldn't have thought it'd be an 11 and a bench of youth. It'd probably be a mix, and like who's on a bench for the league game, maybe they get a start. You know what I mean? And most teams that are going to be in that cup, you probably be comfortable. That's probably going to be good enough.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of semi-professional, isn't it? A lot of them.
Welsh Cup, you mean now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Conference League.
It's only TNS really. That's professional, I believe.
I would be careful underestimating them away from home.
I'm not underestimating them, but I think like between the 4 clubs, if they're all doing that, you'd imagine, generally speaking, one of them gets to the final.
Be heralded as a major shock if any of the 4 teams were to lose to any of them. I'm not saying,
yeah,
but
and that will happen.
Yeah,
and it will happen, and that would be. I think that's exciting, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's like the FA Cup giant killings, but a Welsh version, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just saying, that's exciting. Yeah,
if you go away to your Newtons, your Connors Keys, TNS in particular, and Penabond are having a very good year this year. If it's just a one-legged tie, which I'm presuming these would be, just for the interest of like fixture congestion, you can't just chuck your 23s out. We did that this season in the summer against Bagland Dragons. They were a second-tier Welsh side, and we lost to them. Only on penalties, don't get me wrong. Like you say, if we chuck out a second-string team, your players like, I don't know, I'm just chucking names out, Abdullahs, Nortons, Fultons, that sort of cat, you should walk it, I'm not saying, but still, it can go wrong.
It could definitely go wrong, but then it doesn't matter, does it? Because we're just out with a cup.
No, it would be embarrassing, but that's part of the fun. Like, normally we're going to be in these cup competitions, we're always like the underdogs. Like, we just lost 3-0 to Southampton, didn't we? It's a different concept being like the ones with all the money and the ones with the
and they'll be up for it, won't it? They'll be up for it, but like it will be embarrassing. You're right, it will. But at the same time, the whole point of this is to try and help Welsh football, so that would help them by playing against better quality opposition, I guess.
I do think...
When I say mixed squad, I'm looking at like a team that we played against Gillingham in the League Cup earlier this season.
Yeah.
Now, Show-On starts that game. Pedersen starts that game. I'm trying to see who else was a bit... Maybe Fulton, who hasn't had that much game time. And then if you look at the bench, not the best example, to be honest, but Josh Thomas was there, Daniel Watts was there, Nathan Broom was there. Do you know what I mean? So maybe those players start as more of a mix, not a full like 11 of youth players. But I mean, like a mixture of players that you wouldn't necessarily have to rely on your normal league fixtures.
Yeah.
And then if you get to Europe, I guess it's a case of like maybe early season you qualify, so you put resources into qualify. But I guess like you don't have to prioritize it. Being there in general is probably a pull-in factor.
You want to because you don't know when you'll be back, do you? It's I think qualifiers normally
would have been otherwise.
Yeah. I think qualifiers normally end around mid-August for it. Like, you start in July, so your pre-season is your European qualifiers, really. So that's a different thing for us again.
Could be a positive, that, though.
Yeah, it could be. It's also difficult because you've got to try and recruit not knowing the landscape of like what your season looks like. Because if you know you're going to be in the league phase, you go and get 6 loan players, don't you? Because you know you're going to need them in the league. It's not an issue that you go above the 5 cap rule in the EFL because you genuinely need that many players just changing the squad all the time.
And they could play in the Welsh competition and the Europe competition, and you could, I guess, get a loan player and tell them when they're coming in. And again, maybe that's pulling power for some clubs where it's like some Prem clubs send loan players out to Championship with like hoping they will get some game time, but not always the case. And if you can say to them, look, I can't guarantee they'll play in the Championship, but they'll have opportunities to show their quality in these other competitions, and if they do that, then maybe they will force their way in.
Yeah, exactly. It's a difficult one because, like, what could realistically happen is the first 2 rounds of qualifying could be like easier opponents, but round 3, you can I think did Chelsea go through qualifying? I think Fiorentina went through qualifying. I want to say Real Betis, maybe. Like teams that would beat us convincingly, and it can just be unfortunate luck of the draw that you take one of these teams in qualifying, you don't even make it there. TNS got there this year and they had a really bad team in the last round of qualifying. The difference is because they won the Welsh Prem, they started in Champions League qualifying, lost that game, dropped down to Europa League qualifying, or something along them lines. Point being, there's different paths to get in there. We start, I believe, in the Conference League path. And that's just where you stay. So it's like if you lose one game, that's it. It
says in this like a European competition. So I feel like is that reflected by the coefficient ranking then?
No, it could be. It could actually be. I think it's we'll have a number of spots in each competition. I think it's down to us to distribute them, and obviously we're not even part of that system, the Welsh League system. I know the winner of the Welsh Prem always gets Champions League, and they'll have one Champions League spot. And like you say, coefficient now, our coefficient's gone back up because of TNS, so there's an extra spot there. It is confusing because I think they got 2 cup competitions. I think they've got, depending then, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 positions in their actual league that each club gets as well. So it's one of those ones. This is the point of what we're doing, isn't it? We're trying to do it because if Swans and Cardiff and Wrexham, in particular, those 3, in the next 5 to 10 years qualify back to back to back to back, and you're winning games to qualify, you're winning games hopefully when you're there in the pool stage, all of a sudden then you may get an extra spot or 2 off the back of it. You never know.
Yeah. Unless maybe what you're saying, if they can pick where that goes, and maybe they're going to say like, right, Swansea or Cardiff or Wrexham qualified from the cup this year, you're going to get the higher one. TNS won the league, you're going into the Conference League, and maybe that's already been discussed.
No, it's predetermined before the season starts. Like you'll
know.
Maybe
they're going to switch it then. I don't know.
I don't know. It would be a kick in the teeth for me if I got told, yeah, we're going to give the Champions League spot to this, one of these teams in the year.
Yeah,
I'll admit that, but
I think so too. But TNS have been quite vocally supportive of this, and they're the club that's going to stand to lose that the most because they're the one that batter the league every year. I think the bigger picture is what is the focus here. And I think that's all of that conversation about what we just had about the football and getting there and whatever. It doesn't matter in regards to why this is being done. This is being done to get money into Welsh football. That's the reason they're doing it. No matter whatever happens in the games, whatever. On paper, any club from the Welsh Premier League, TNS had a really fairy tale time this year, and it's good to see that. How often does that happen? And I think that's the point, isn't it? So they know the biggest teams in Wales are not part of their system, so they don't represent them. So then when it comes to making money out of these competitions, it's very hard. It's very hard to progress. It's hard to get money in. It's hard to get better players and build the system. So they want to do that. They put in these 4 clubs in. And as much as it's not a shoe-in or a given that they will get to these later stages year in, year out, you would imagine more often than it is now, they will. Whether that's like one time more. Do you know what I mean? Like, say in 10 years, TNS got in once, you would imagine in another 10-year period, if those 4 clubs win it every time, and it'd probably be 3, let's be honest. I don't think Newport are really in the same conversation. They might win. They might on a cup match get it, have a good time. Do you know what I mean? But I think if Wrexham continue their path as well and Cardiff avoid relegation, that's where you're really looking at, isn't it? Championship level. I think there'll be more times in that 10-year period where one of those clubs has made it to the competition. So that money, the guaranteed 3 million for getting there, has come into the Welsh football system a lot more than it has in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. And it doesn't matter the performance within that. And I think if you're looking at the benefits of the clubs that we are going in, if we're not going to get money out of it, what are the benefits? Yeah, okay, that is the detriment to the playing squad. But would you not choose? You would choose to be there, wouldn't you, if you had the choice?
Yeah, of course you would.
And if we struggle to sign players, and I think a lot of that's location-based, a lot of that's because of our money and our pulling power, and that would change necessarily. But then if you can offer them, okay, well, they're paying you more money, but we can offer you a chance to play in Europe. That's something that will help us when it comes to signing players we can already afford but lose out on.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel
So,
like,
yeah, go on.
I was just going to say grassroots, like it says there, we're probably one of the worst in Europe for 3G pitches. I think good example of that. I went to the Netherlands in Den Haag, going back about a decade ago. My brother had a football tournament there. We went out there. Stunning weather and what have you, but we get there to the centre where it's like, like Miniv Newydd, you'd have all like the little games going on, the round robin tournament. It's like that, but it's like 10 times the size. It's like dozens and dozens of AstroTurf and grass pitches. And I was just counting them. I'm like, Den Haag, it's not like a massive city in the Netherlands. It's not like Amsterdam or anything, And there was more pitches in this one like spot than there was like in all of Swansea put together. This is just one. This isn't like the entire city. This was like one place, and I was just like,
Yeah,
the funding that they must be getting compared to like what we have. You don't think about it until you like travel and actually see these places. But even the funding there, I understand England's a much bigger place, right? But £17 million of funding going into Wales compared to 327 million going into England, and we're on about £3 million per year, which
and that's just from UEFA. Yeah, that money. I think that money is from UEFA. So like that's what UEFA's paying the football associations. So that's before like any of the money that filters down from the Premier League for England.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not to say that the money that's filtered down to Swans and Cardiff and Wrexham and Newport, it doesn't have an impact. I'm sure it does. Like put Swansea on the map, certainly. Cardiff maybe have it a bit easier because they're a capital city to begin with. But it also doesn't filter down properly because, like, I know I used to play like little, 5-a-side, 6-a-side, 7-a-side football. I don't know what it's like now so much, but then that you never saw any girls playing football. You never saw any teams of girls playing alongside you. You never see it now. I've never once, sometimes I watch from Major Play 11 aside. You never see a women's game going on, do you?
No.
And I think we just sort of assume that's normal, but maybe if we went to England, we'd see it's not. And we're actually, I think I read somewhere, I don't know if it was on that article or somewhere else, it actually says, additionally, girls' access to football at all levels is 10 plus years behind. That's just the rest of the UK, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the UK is behind parts of Europe. So it's bad.
And
it's a bad
on the
situation.
telly. Women's football's on the telly a lot more now.
We
it is, to be
qualified,
fair.
didn't we?
You can see that it's growing. You can see that it's a growing thing. And I guess this is one thing Andy Coleman's doing really well because he's trying to push Swansea's women team quite a lot. It's been one of his main goals since he's been in. He's been quite vocal about it, and good on him for that. And the fact that that's in here in our statement as well, I think speaks volumes for his involvement in all of this. It's one of those things, right? Andy Coleman won't be here one day. Everyone remembers Hugh Jenkins and his legacy, and I think this thing as a whole, we don't know how it's going to work. It could be good, it could work, and do exactly what they want to do and have a big impact. And maybe it won't. And if it doesn't, I'm sure what will happen is it'll just go away. They'll try it, and if it doesn't work, it will just stop. And that's fine. But I think it's got the potential for him to leave Swansea when that day comes, having made a bit of an impact during his time here, and not just being the chairman of a football club or the owner of a football club, which most of them are. And that's, I think, on the back of our previous ownership regime. Surely that's just a nice thing to see, that's good. That's like, we wanted a community feeling back in the club. Surely this is something that brings that, even the fact that he's trying and going out his way to do these things. You ask other people their opinions on this, right? And I think there's two different divides. There's the divide of the Welsh Premier League club fans, who I think are just concerned, are they going to be cost opportunities? And then there's the divide of English football team fans who, I'm just going to put out there, are just jealous of the situation. That's where that comes from. I'm not saying that their jealousy is unfounded, but it's jealousy. They don't agree with Welsh clubs being able to play in the English system to then go and get what they call as an easy route into Europe through the Welsh Cup. But I guarantee that's just because they can't have that.
Particularly the League 2 and League 1 clubs. I don't know if you've noticed, like I think the Championship clubs, you can still harbour some hope that one day you'll push on, maybe you can get lucky in a League Cup, or maybe you see like Forest and in the Champions League places right now. They're in the Championship a couple of years ago. But particularly clubs more of the size, I hate to just pick out random teams, like Accrington Stanley is a typical one. But just, teams in League Two, teams around Newport size in particular, who probably don't harbour any hope of playing in Europe, really. And knowing Newport in particular will have that chance. It is just a chance. Cardiff, Swans and Wrexham will be favourites for it. But, Newport, all Newport need to do is beat Wrexham and then have a good day against Cardiff or Swans,
They might need to just beat one of them if the draw goes that way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's they've beaten us, keep in mind, Newport, when Steve Cooper was here. We had them in the first round.
It's only 2 leagues. Like we could lose to Newport in the FA Cup, realistically.
Yeah.
So that could happen.
Just said we lost them in the League Cup. That's what I was going to say. We lost them on the opening fixture of the season 2-0. So they've beaten us before. They can do it again. I think they're having a bit of a tough time at the minute, from what I know. So they won't be expected to. But these aren't like amateur footballers. They're professional footballers still. So got to include them in the conversation. And, they saw TNS have qualified this season. So it's not to say if Newport did win the Welsh Cup, they couldn't go all the way into the Conference League. So yes, the word jealousy you used was perfect, really, wasn't it? Because
it is that. And what was the word you use? And maybe it's not good to chat about on a podcast, but I think it's true. Like the nationality thing in it, this is like, it always comes up. Swansea go in the Premier League, and people used to say, "Why are they even in the Premier League? They shouldn't be in the English system."
Yeah, I mean, the word is xenophobia, which is a very big word, reserved for bigger moments than discussions like this. I know, but what you're saying is somewhat true, isn't it? Like,
I'm not saying people are xenophobic to the people, but the comment that this club can't do this because of this, the whole reasoning behind that is just coming from a xenophobic nature.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, well, they're getting something out of being in both. Well, they can't do that. They shouldn't be in ours. Why are we giving them our money? Because if they want to go and do their own things, again, they shouldn't be here. They should go to the Welsh Premier League, watch them fall apart then because they won't have the money and, they'll realise what they got with us. That's literally what the conversation is. And I just think, to be honest,
coercive relationship then, doesn't
whatever club you support that you're saying this from, why do you care? Like, seriously, why are you that bothered by it? Why do you actually care? And the reason that it'll boil down to is because your club doesn't have a chance of going into Europe. Now, the bottom line is, right, and I get it, it's a bit frustrating. You'd be like, it's a bit sad. I wish I had that. It's no different from a situation of being like, I don't know, it was a mainstay Premier League team, like Everton, West Ham, who've been in the Premier League pretty much all the time. I know West Ham flirted up and down a little bit, but then Man City were one of them as well. And then they just got rich out of nowhere. And now they're always winning everything. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing, just a different version of it. And I'm not saying we're going to go and win everything, but like in terms of getting something that you can't get for this reason, the reason they can't get the European thing through Welsh Cup is because they're not Welsh. The reason that West Ham aren't winning the league every year is because they didn't become rich, for example. That's what I'm trying to say, comparison there. And I think sometimes in football, things just happen. Sometimes you're a fan of a lucky situation, and sometimes you're a fan of not a lucky situation. And it's part of football and the ups and downs. And through 100-year period, it changes all the time, I guess. And there's trends and this, that, the other. You could go back in the Welsh Cup, actually. There's some winners of the Welsh Cup, Bristol City, Shrewsbury, who are not Welsh, but they've been involved in the Welsh Cup in the past. They weren't allowed to qualify to Europe through winning the Welsh Cup when they won it. Same as we won't, like, we didn't mention this actually. If we go into this now, we won't be able to qualify through Europe in an English competition. That's already been agreed on and kind of expected. But yeah, so like, I'd imagine if that invitation ever got extended to those teams again, would they say the same things? I don't know.
This is where now we've got to say there's like a 4-year opt-out clause where after 4 years the teams can pull out. And I think there's like maybe not in writing, but like a common understanding if anybody got promoted to the Prem, they'd pull out of it because it wouldn't be in their best interest to carry on doing it. So I found that interesting because you're then arguing you'd rather not have the luxury of being able to win the Welsh Cup and try and get into Europe through the Prem. But I'm just like, I wouldn't pull out of it. I gotta be honest, because if you go up to the Prem, chances are you're only there for a year anyway, aren't you? You can't just like opt in and out, in and out.
If I had the choice, I wouldn't pull out in that situation either. I guess the argument is you pull out because you want to focus on not getting relegated. That's probably the argument. I think we talked about the extra demands that it could cause. I think if you just got promoted and you won that competition and went into Europe that season, it's already very hard these days to stay in the Premier League. So like there is the one argument to saying like you're sacrificing qualifying through Europe through the Premier League. But realistically, you've got to stay in the Premier League before you even look at that. I know Forest are doing a good job of it now, but how often does that happen? So I think if you did pull out, you'd probably be looking at it from the stabilizing point of view. But I think if you're clever and you can manage both successfully, you can manage to not get relegated while staying in that competition. Maybe then the player pull strength would have a bigger impact in that league. So it could go the other way if they manage to do both. But again, I'm probably just giving more arguments to those across the border why it shouldn't happen by saying that sort of thing. But I mean, the bottom line for me is, right, when it comes to like this whole, they shouldn't be allowed to do it. We've been in the English league system for like probably as long as anyone that's criticising this has been born. A lot of the Welsh teams that are involved in this in the English league system are older than clubs that are involved in the English league system that are English. Wrexham, one of the oldest clubs, if not the oldest club in the country.
Yeah, and then obviously we're founded in 1912, and I think we joined the English league system was in the 30s.
So there's a long-standing history there for a start. But like also, why shouldn't we be able to represent Wales in the European competition? And it's not like we're saying we can have both. We're saying we won't do it through your league system and your cup competitions. We're saying that's fine. But when we did get there before, we had to fly an English flag.
And I was fuming at that. Even as a child, I was like, what is going on there?
So that's something that we had to do when we qualified down that route. I think we asked the question for not doing it, and obviously we got told no for the reasons that, again, a link to this conversation. I guess you qualified that way. You're representing their slot, so you've got to fly that flag. And as much as I hate it, I think fair enough. So why shouldn't we be allowed to do it this way? Like, if that's what we choose, I don't really see the issue. And I'm sure there's some examples across Europe where similar things happen, maybe not exactly the same, where teams in other countries play in other countries' league systems and stuff like that.
There's a club in Liechtenstein that play in the Swiss leagues, but the situation we're proposing now is similar to that. I presume they still play in maybe some, I don't know if it's a Liechtenstein Cup, because Liechtenstein's so small that wouldn't make any sense, but they've qualified via some sort of means that we're proposing right now, and it's complicated. But from a legal standpoint, this is why it's come about, because there's a current situation there with the Liechtenstein-Switzerland thing where a similar deal has been approved by UEFA. So there's no legal standings for really rejecting it on those grounds. And yeah, it's just getting green lights from everyone. Obviously, the FA being the last one. Hopefully, talk about chairmans. Trevor Birch, former chairman, is chief exec at the EFL.
Oh, bitch! Leave your lasting legacy.
Yeah, I know he's not the FA, but obviously the EFL and the FA have got to like be working somewhat together on it, haven't they? I'd imagine anyway. So hopefully he puts in a good word as unbiasedly as he possibly can, because obviously he can't be seen to be giving preferential treatment to anyone. Last thing I was going to point out is obviously we're talking about the history of like us being in these leagues. A lot of people don't know how early we joined the English leagues. A lot of people also don't know this system we're proposing now. We're just reverting back to what it was like 40 years ago. The Cup Winners' Cup and that route into Europe. We weren't playing in the Welsh leagues, but we were still able to compete in the Welsh Cup. I believe it got abandoned. I want to say the 80s, early 90s. Don't quote me on it. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, they tried bringing it back, didn't they? But they wouldn't relinquish their FA Cup stuff.
Yeah, but it's just come full circle to a point where it suits the 4 teams to do it. As you said, a lot of the fans of the Welsh Prem teams are against it, like quite.
I think they would be against it.
Not. I don't
know. But
if
they saw money coming in and if they saw improvements because of that money, I think it's something that they would come round to. I understand the skeptical nature of it from their perspective. I get it, and I understand that. And it's one of those where if it starts working the way it's intended, I personally believe a lot of those fans will come round and be like, actually, no, this is good.
Yeah, and it's hopefully I know it sounds weird. Hopefully this 4-year opt-out clause thing doesn't come about, because I do think it may take 5 years, maybe more, for it to really have an effect and for the effects to like be noticed by all. It's a trickle-down economy, really, what we're proposing, and that, not to get political, I hate the term trickle-down economy, but that is what we're proposing, isn't it? Like, it's not going to be, right, girls football, you're getting £3 million in one chunk now. They'll get a portion of that £3 million every year. It'll help. It's better than what they're getting now, but it's not going to fix the problem overnight, is it? It's going to take time. And it should be pointed out that £3 million a year isn't going to solve the problem either. There are other steps that need to be taken, particularly by the government, probably, to rectify the issue. But
and they have had a dig at them.
But it is a good stance to take. It is like what we're doing, and again, well done to the higher ups of Swansea, particularly Coleman, for making the proposal happen and get it to where it has. Hopefully now, next time we jump back on a pod, maybe soon after, the FA would have said yes to it. We can only hope it's out of our hands now, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so. The last thing I would say is in regards to like anyone that's skeptical, because a lot of the English fans I've spoken to that hate it just think it's a agreed thing that we are doing it for our own benefit. We want to line our own pockets and just benefit out of it. Clearly not knowing all the facts, because that's not what's going to happen. Just Welsh sport in general is in a bad place. And just look at rugby to see where that is, which is, you could argue, in the way they spoke about how they need the investment here from grassroots. Rugby is like in the same mess, if not worse. So it's not like a one-off thing that Welsh football is bad. Welsh sport is bad. So anything like this that has got the aim to try and help that, I'm all for it. And I think anyone in Wales really, as much as you might be a fan of, and I've spoke to a fan of Wrexham, who his local town is Bala. So he was like one of those people you just said, and he was quite like, I don't know how to think about this. I don't know how to feel about it. And I was having a conversation quite similar to what we've just discussed with this information that's come out in the last couple of days. And he said, he was like, do you know what, like, if that's the reason for all of this happening, if it does go that way that they want it to go, then for the whole of Welsh football, it can only be a good thing, and would endorse it. And then we were just talking about it, and because he lives up in North Wales, and it'd be good if we could go and have a one day. If it was a away day and he's there and I'm there, it'd be good to have a pint sort of thing. And he was like, I could just imagine like Baratown, their pitch is like proper old, like crap, 3G thing, like no capacity and all of this. And it'd just be quite fun, I think, after a few years when it's embedded. Like, I think these fans that might be a little bit against it now, and you draw like Swansea or Cardiff or Wrexham at home, and you've got like a 200-seated ground. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might not even end up playing there. Maybe they'll move it somewhere more appropriate for the match to try and maximize the financial gain.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other benefits that come from it. And imagine you go and win that game. That's like that'd be a hell of a day for that team.
Well, we might get a commutable away day or two out of it, like Penabont, mean, in Bridgend. Imagine Bridgend away. That's not too difficult, is it? 25 minutes down the road on the M4s. So.
Who else is there? You got Avon Lido, maybe.
It's only 16 teams, see. So it's just the Premier League. On the Premier League,
are they there these days?
No, I don't think they are. I'll check now while we're on you.
But they flirt with the Prem, don't they?
Yeah, they're up and down. I think Trundle helped them out.
They used to be good before.
Cardiff Met.
Is Statin still there these days?
I'll read them out now. So New Saints is Oswestry, however you say, that's ages away. Penabont, so that's Bridgend. Haverfordwest, decent day out, that one would be. Carnarvon, I think that's quite north. Cardiff Met would be good. Barrier there would be good. Bala, like you said, is quite far. Connors Quay, I think, is quite far. Britton Ferry are there. Flint Town.
Britton Ferry away. Oh my God, that's literally on my doorstep.
Flint Town, is that mid Flint? I don't know where Flint is actually.
Mid somewhere, I think. Mid to north.
Newton, I think, or Newtown, sorry. I think that's about 2 and a bit hours or so. And then Aberystwyth again, 2 hours. Point being,
it's to be good. It's different, isn't it? Yeah. It's like so different away days. Like...
Yeah, the vast majority of that league are commutable, which most away days for us aren't. I mean, if I just count them quickly, I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
When I was talking to that guy as well, I was generally asking, like, is there a world that I wouldn't want to have every match at home because it's not good. That's getting to territory where it just benefits us, yeah. But if the priority is to maximize money here for these smaller clubs, for these clubs to get more money, like ticket sales and that, from these games. Do you go to bigger grounds for these teams that haven't got much?
That's a good question, because I feel like it'll be so difficult for them to measure, won't it? Because if it was any of
I don't know what the
5,
smallest ground of them that you just mentioned is, but
and neither do I, if I'm honest with you. I think attendance roughly usually hovers around the 1,000 people mark, like as an average. So it's, like you say, it's not much footfall. But if you said Penabont, maybe Haverfordwest, Cardiff Met, Barry certainly, and Britain Ferry for Swans now, they're all like very close. Maybe not Haverfordwest, but the other 4 especially are very close. You probably, for Britain Ferry in particular and Penabont, take a few thousand just because it'd be fun, honestly, because it's that close. There'll be people living in Bridgend and Britain Ferry who are Swans fans who would just go.
I wouldn't be surprised, right, if we drew Britain Ferry away, they would just play it in the Swansea Stadium.
Yeah,
because that's good for them as well, isn't it?
Yeah. But the point I was going to make, it gets more difficult then when you start talking about Carnarvon, Bala, Connors Quay, Aberystwyth.
Play it in Wrexham's ground.
Maybe. But also I feel like it defeats the purpose of it a bit, doesn't it? Imagine like if you're like walking distance to the stadium as a fan for one of those Welsh clubs, and then you throw Cardiff, Wrexham or Swans. And
maybe it's just like the bigger games, the semis, the final, something like that.
I mean, if it was me, I'm not planning, obviously, but if it was me, I would just predetermine like where semi-final 1, semi-final 2, and the final is going to be played to a point. Like, obviously, you'd have to maybe just the final actually, because it would depend who's in the semis. Like, you can't say semi-final is going to be in Wrexham if all the teams who draw it from the south. That's stupid.
But you also can't say if Wrexham got to the final, that wouldn't be fair, would it? So it'd have to be like, well, they could go Parky Scarlets as a neutral venue.
I feel like Newport or Wrexham's grounds make the most sense for the final, because I do feel it'll take some time to build the prestigiousness or the prestige, whatever the word is, of it. I don't know if
it's a Swansea Cardiff final.
This is the thing. It's such a difficult thing to plan, isn't it? Because like you can't.
Well, Principality. There we go.
It's interesting for a Welsh Cup. I don't know. I really don't know. I think the added emphasis.
Where's it played now? Where's it played now?
Does it exist now? I feel like it's like a revamped competition, isn't it?
Yeah, but it must be coming from something.
I don't know. Like the one we compete in now of the under-21s is Nathaniel MG Cup, and that's definitely not this, because we played, as I said, Baggies Dragons. They're in the 2nd division, so that's a different cup again. So I feel like this is just a brand new competition that it happens to be that we've got 4 good like professional sides, and we got 12 in the Prem, so just merge it to form a 16 side. You know, it's just the last 16 from the get-go, really, isn't it? That's all it's going to be. It's going to be a short competition.
Let me see if I can quickly Google it. Revamp the Welsh League Cup, it says here, isn't it? So Welsh League Cup, founded in 1992, 46 teams.
46 teams.
That's the current format. So that is ongoing at the moment. No, it says here that New Saints won 23-24 in the final. They beat Swansea City under 21s 5-1.
Yeah.
So that's the.
And then we went out in round 1 this year. So it must have been Nathaniel MG.
It must be the same one then,
yeah.
So what are you saying? It's a 16 team.
That's what I took it as.
Maybe we don't come in until that stage.
Maybe that would make more sense. Yeah, because FA Cup people don't come in until the 3rd round.
Look, it's still new, isn't it, for everyone listening? The information's kind of being drip fed. I would imagine when the FA makes a decision, I would imagine it's communicated in full how it's going to look. But yeah, I still think it's interesting. The final took place in Barry for this one. The one before, which Bala Town played Connacht's Quay the year before, was in the Rock Stadium, Wrexham. That's not there.
That's not even the main ground. The race course is the main one, isn't it?
But again, if it ups the competition, if you've got Swansea, Cardiff, or Wrexham in the final, surely it's a bigger ground. Yeah. And that's good and I would imagine, and I don't think we saw any of this, but like ticket sales in general, right? If we got a home match, surely we just give them to the club we're playing. Like what happens in the FA Cup quite a lot.
When you say give them, like just give them an unlimited. capacity.
Well, like a good split of the money. I mean,
oh right, yeah, maybe
the ticket revenue.
Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, I wouldn't have been against. I don't know if this could end up being true. I don't know. I wouldn't have been against, like, if you say we get introduced in the last 16, us 4 teams guaranteed to be away. I wouldn't have shot it down. Just the guarantees 4 teams a home tie. Then yeah. And then as for the final, I think I'm remembering now. To be fair, there is always like some disagreement between clubs and the fans. Is outrage maybe is a big word, I know, but like in terms of where it's played, because sometimes the teams are made to travel large distances, the fans are made to travel like huge distances as well, which people can't always afford to do. It's difficult. You can't like be seen to say, okay, like imagine now, I don't know, the new Saints and the Swans make it. You got that. Do you find a ground last minute that's in between them, both of them away from home? Like you could end up in the middle of nowhere. Like when like Champions League, they always just say it's this ground. You know, it's that ground from the start, don't you, for the final? I know it's a big difference compared to the Champions League. You get what I mean? Like there are multiple ways of doing it. FA Cup,
That's
it's
why I
always
said
Wembley.
like Parc Scarlets, because that's not anyone's home. Don't Llanelli play there? Football? I don't think they do they? Not football.
Can't. No.
So if it can accommodate a football match, that's like a neutral venue of a decent size.
Ideally, you pick a stadium in mid Wales. That's like equidistant for people, but there are no good stadiums.
Are there any stadiums that have a good capacity there?
No, there's not. That's the issue.
Or do you go like Birmingham? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
you can't be seen to hold the Welsh League Cup final outside.
No, exactly. That's yeah. And then you've got the ones that are like on the border, which you probably argue then, well, why are we not part of this? So we'll see. I'd imagine those sort of details will get ironed out if it goes ahead. There'd probably be a little bit of time to plan ahead for those sort of things. But it's exciting. We talked about this quite a while now, so we'll call it there. But I hope it's not the end of the conversation.
Yeah, imagine all this for nothing.
I just think it's something new. That's something to get excited about, to be honest. And it might not work, but then it'll just go away.
Well, like obviously, this isn't me trying to have a go at you now about your age, but you probably got better memories of Europe than I do, because I was only where are we now? Was it 12 years ago? So I was 11. So I got some, but you probably remember a bit more vividly. The idea of experiencing that again, though, is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
It nothing compares to it, does it? You know, like it was like St. Gallen away, you know, clubs you.
I went to all the home matches. Unfortunately, didn't go to any of the away ones. But like watching Napoli in our stadium, for example, was a big one.
Yeah,
I guess and Valencia Napoli was the one. And on that game, it was 0-0.
Yeah, Pepe Reina had a masterclass, didn't he?
How we didn't score, I don't know, but we should have scored and we should have progressed because of that. I think we lost 3-2 away, 3-1.
Yeah,
but I think it was 3-1, but I think it was like 2-1 for a long time, and we were in the game, and arguably we should have been up. And I would say comfortably up. We were well on top of Napoli at home. How it ended 0-0, I never know. But it's one of those where it was so frustrating to not progress, but they played so well that you take it, because like you just saw us play so well against such a good team in the European competition. Like you went out with your heads held high. And I was actually watching the League Cup final against Bradford earlier on, just for randomly. And I noticed as well, I mentioned it to you, didn't I? Like a keeper that came on, the keeper started for us against Southampton, John McLaughlin, probably said his name wrong again. He came off the bench for Bradford when their keeper got sent off and was in goals for the penalty that Jonathan de Guzman took. So linked, because obviously that's what got us into Europe. I was going down memory lane earlier on. So yeah, it is good memories of that time. And I would love to see it again.
Yeah, crazy full circle moment with McLaughlin, like you say. But yeah, obviously I don't think it would be necessarily as big as Napoli this time round. Chances are, if we ended up in Conference League, but yeah, anywhere.
Sometimes it's the random teams you never heard of that are the ones that are like worth it.
Yeah, ending up on the Swans away day was in some random, I don't know, some Slovenian town somewhere. You have no reason to ever go there or go there again.
Rubin Kazan, I think, was the dodgy one, or like Petrolog, whatever it's called in Romania.
Yeah, I'd have to go to them all. I think, if like at least the first.
You're at an age where you can afford it and go around and go for it. But
beauties of living at home, not having a mortgage.
If I can get to one, I'd be loving it. But it's because it's one of those things where you can't plan so far in advance, can you? For those sort of games, they got to be quite
reactionary.
Yeah, and like being able to get the time off, and like obviously I've got kids and stuff, so we'll see. I'd love to go to one, but
Take them with you, man.
Well, it might be at the age when it happens. At least one of them might be interested, but depends what it is as well. To be honest,
yeah,
some of them are a bit
Europe.
rough.
Conference League, I think especially, you can end up.
It's got to be the right environment. Like, you're not gonna.
Yeah.
You go to Napoli away, no chance, no chance at all. But yeah, it'd be good. Maybe we'll go to one. Maybe we'll go to one together. We'll do some podcasting from like, I don't know,
a Swedish bar. Yeah. Anyway, that's about the end of probably the longest pod I think I've certainly done. I don't know about you.
It wasn't. I don't know. I said to myself before we started, we need to take an hour here. Got a couple of direct topics to talk about, but
never ends that way, does it?
No. Anyway, thanks for everyone that's still here at this point. I might actually cut out the Welsh Cup bit, put it up separately. I'll decide tomorrow. So you might see 2 videos, you might see 1. But cheers for anyone that's watched either and you're still here at this point. Let us know in the comments your thoughts about everything we discussed. Like, you excited about the prospect of this Welsh Cup or not bothered? Maybe you think it's not a good idea. Let us know in the comments, and we shall catch you after the Cardiff game, hopefully talking about another win. But until then, see you next time.
In a bit.